Chapter 8:36. Xiao Chen pushed off with his feet and spun around as he soared into the air. The moment he rose, a black snake tail swept under his feet. If he had been any slower, he would have suffered this strike. The snake tail sweep was the strongest move of snake-type spirit beasts. This sweep of the black flame sovereign snake, which was as strong as a superior-grade martial sage, was sufficient to severely injure Xiao Chen. The howling of a strong wind resounded in the sky. It sounded like a hurried whistle, spreading in all directions and scattering the white clouds. With one sweep, there were no clouds for 5 kilometers around. Xiao Chen was flabbergasted. No wonder the expressions of the people on both sides immediately changed when they saw the gigantified black flame sovereign snake. With such explosive power, it would be terrible if one got hit. A strong fishy smell wafted over. Xiao Chen looked up and saw the black flame sovereign snake twisting its body in the air like a flood dragon. Then, it opened its huge mouth and launched itself at him. A huge suction force came from its mouth, and a whirlwind continued to form, spinning continuously. Fortunately, Xiao Chen dodged quickly and was not pulled by the suction. He tilted his body down and glided down like an eagle. Then, he turned his head back and fired another arrow. The black flame sovereign snake's mind was filled with rage. It roared and spat out a 3,000-meter-long black flame from its mouth. The snake's head danced. The pillar of flames danced in the air, looking very mighty. As Xiao Chen glided down, he moved about nimbly, dodging the flames, not letting any sparks come into contact with him. As the chase continued, the spirit beasts and cultivators of the savannah panicked and fled for their lives. The difference between a superior-grade martial sage and an inferior-grade martial sage was an insurmountable chasm. Xiao Chen was not arrogant enough to kill the other party. However, he was very confident of luring this black flame sovereign snake away. Xiao Chen looked up into the distance and saw a pillar of light descending from the sky. That was the target of everyone here, the treasury hall. After dodging a few times, Xiao Chen slid swiftly towards the ground. When he was close to the ground, he lifted his body slightly and landed firmly on the ground. Xiao Chen took a few steps forward, alleviating the momentum from inertia. He stopped dodging and raised his head to look at the black flame sovereign snake in the air. When the black flame sovereign snake saw that Xiao Chen was no longer running for his life, it charged down violently, its huge body directly descending. 9 roaming dragon transformations. A loud rumbling sound rang out as the black flame sovereign snake landed on the ground. The entire ground shook violently and cracks even appeared. The black flames on his body ignited the surrounding weeds. As the flames swept out, a large patch of ash was created. 9 figures surrounded the black flame snake and soared into the air. The real and the fake were hard to distinguish. The black flame snake spat out flames and destroyed the clones one by one. By the time the black flame sovereign snake destroyed the 8 clones, it had already given Xiao Chen too much time. Xiao Chen's true body was already a kilometer away. Xiao Chen formed hand seals, and the 72 universe flags flickered with spiritual light. They quickly entered the ground and formed a strong restriction that spanned 5 kilometers. The restriction covered all directions, including the sky and the ground. Once the black flame sovereign snake was trapped, it would not be able to escape. However, to others, they would not be able to discover anything. Furthermore, the restriction had a simple illusion effect. Xiao Chen's white robes fluttered in the sharp air as he looked at the restriction below. He smiled faintly and heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he dusted off his hands and carefully flew back. 5 kilometers away, Xiao Chen stopped in the air. He supported his chin with his right hand as he watched carefully. While avoiding the 2 departed spirit fruits, the ghost race and corpse race fought each other to the death. The battle was very intense. All sorts of Yin soldiers and demonic corpses fought. A cold wind blew, and black chi spread out. As dust flew up, the sounds of fighting rang out endlessly. The scene was chaotic. On the battlefield, 3 demonic corpses covered in green demonic flames attracted Xiao Chen's attention. These 3 demonic corpses were clearly different from the other demonic corpses. First, they were about 3 meters tall, far taller than the other demonic corpses. Then, there was the green demonic flame on their bodies. Xiao Chen thought about it. The more he looked at it, the more it looked like the legendary Yellow Springs underworld flame. Among the inattributed flames, the Yellow Springs underworld flame was second only to the lunar true flame. It was on the same level as the scarlet blood frost flame. Like the scarlet blood frost flame, it was also a top-grade evil flame. Its special effect was to burn the soul, which was a strong counter to Yin soldiers. However, these three demonic corpses, which should have been the nemesis of Yin soldiers, met with a difficult opponent. That white figure held a long scythe in its hand. It was about 10 meters tall, much taller than the flaming demonic corpses. The white figure fought 1 against 3. Although it was clearly not a match for them, it managed to delay the 3 demonic corpses, preventing them from sweeping up the Yin soldiers elsewhere. Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, clicked her tongue and sighed, "The fight is really intense." Unexpectedly, the corpse race's underworld fire demonic corpse and the ghost race's soul reaper Yin soldier are both brought over. The puppet snake opened its mouth and bit down on the spirit vein's origin. Then, it rolled into Xiao Chen's hand, easily obtaining the spirit vein's origin. The group of people above fought to the death. Even in their dreams, they would not expect that Xiao Chen, who lured away the black flame sovereign snake, had already returned. Furthermore, he managed to obtain the peak spirit vein's origin without much effort. Xiao Chen had never believed that Qing Cheng would let him leave after obtaining the spirit vein's origin. It was not just because of the spirit vein's origin. The death throne that Xiao Chen possessed was sufficient for Qing Cheng to make a move without any reason. A light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. He was not in a rush to leave. Instead, he controlled the puppet snake to rise in a straight line. Bang! The 3 departed spirit flowers on the ground suddenly burst apart. Countless bits of soil flew everywhere as the 3 departed spirit flowers flew into the air. The black puppet snake opened its mouth and bit down. Then, it swallowed the 3 departed spirit flowers at a speed that no one could stop. This mysterious phenomenon startled the ghost race and corpse race cultivators at the critical moment of the chaotic battle. They could not help but stop what they were doing. Damn! In the next moment, the cultivators of the 2 races reacted and started cursing angrily. Death energy gathered in their bodies, and a strong wind blew. All sorts of horrifying martial techniques rained down on the puppet snake. Do you still want the departed spirit fruits? If you want it, then stop. Xiao Qin used the dragon tone art to transmit his voice from the puppet snake. This simple sentence immediately froze everyone's movements. Before everyone's astonished gazes, Xiao Chen walked out of the puppet snake's mouth holding 3 departed spirit flowers. As Xiao Chen looked at the stunned crowd, he smiled gently. The show was just beginning. Of the 3 departed spirit flowers, Xiao Chen picked 2 of the departed spirit fruits and played with them in his hand. Formless death chi spread out. Xiao Chen frowned slightly, feeling somewhat uncomfortable. The main reason was because of his mental state. With his protective quintessence, this death chi could not cause any substantial harm to Xiao Chen. When Qing Cheng, Ji Shizhan, Bai Su, and the others saw Xiao Chen suddenly return, they rejoiced at first. Then their expressions changed. Something was wrong. The expressions of Wang Can, Wei Hua, and the others of the corpse race became uncertain as well. They did not know what Xiao Chen was trying to do. Xiao Chen, what are you trying to do? The departed spirit fruits are useless to you, right? Do you think you can run after offending both the ghost race and the corpse race for these 2 departed spirit fruits? Wang Can asked coldly with a sullen expression. Standing above the puppet snake, Xiao Chen smiled and said, "Huh. It does not matter whether it is useful to me or not. It is fine as long as it is useful to you." The ghost race woman, Qing Cheng, also showed some anger on her snow-white, soul-stirring face. She had not expected Xiao Chen to be so bold. Not only did Xiao Chen obtain the peak spirit vein's origin, but he even snatched away the departed spirit fruits before the many experts of the corpse race, ghost race, and ghost race. Chapter 837. She should have known that this fellow would not be so kind as to lure away the black flame sovereign snake. He clearly wanted the 2 races to fight while he took advantage of the situation. Or rather, from the very start, Xiao Chen did not believe in Qing Cheng's promise and had made up his mind long ago. Qing Cheng said in a cold voice, "Young Master Xiao, unexpectedly, you are also someone who goes back on your word." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said to Qing Cheng, "Miss Qing Cheng, you know very well who you are keeping these black and white soul reapers to deal with. A straightforward person does not resort to insinuations. There is no need to be so pompous. I, Xiao Chen, have never said that I am a gentleman. If I really help you deal with these people, will you let me go? I am not a 3-year-old child. Whether it is right or wrong, there is no need to say too much. Right now, I am in control of everything. Whether you admit it or not, the departed spirit fruit that can help you advance quickly is now in the hands of me, Xiao Chen." There were more than 100 martial sages of the two races and countless demonic corpses and Yin soldiers. If they all attacked together, even a superior grade martial sage would not dare to be too unbridled. A gentle wind blew, and Xiao Chen's white robes and hair fluttered. As he stood on the puppet snake's head, he looked at the group of experts without any fear. His expression did not change at all. Why is he speaking so much nonsense? Attack together and take his life. Does he really think that he is incredible just because he is a descendant of the Qing Emperor? Someone roared in rage. The rest of the people chimed in. The demonic corpses roared and the Yin soldiers howled. In that instant, the winds and clouds changed, and a cloud of dust kicked up. "Who dares to take a step forward?" Xiao Chen said calmly, unhurriedly. Electricity surged in his hand as though he was going to destroy the two departed spirit fruits. "Stop! Don't move!" Wang Can and Qing Cheng both berated them, stopping their subordinates. Departed spirit flowers were hard to find outside. They only existed in the underworld river, an underground forbidden land. Even Emperor Wu did not dare to enter that place. The value of the departed spirit fruit itself was already very high. The value of the fruit was even more immeasurable. Inferior grade martial sage was also the realm that could bring out the best effects of the departed spirit fruit. If they did not have a certain value, the corpse race and ghost race would not have brought out their trump cards and started fighting before reaching the treasury hall. Wei Hua, who had been silent all this while, said, "What do you want? Just say it." Xiao Chen smiled gently and said, "It seems that there are people who understand. Since all of you want this departed spirit fruit, I naturally can't give it to just anyone. You guys can bid for it. Whoever offers the most astral coins will get it. Of course, spirit vein origins, sage grade secret treasures, secret techniques, and medicinal pills can also be added. In short, I want all treasures. I am a very open-minded person." When the cultivators of the two races heard this, their expressions changed. They wondered if they had heard wrong. This fellow, who was surrounded by more than 100 inferior grade martial sages and could die at any moment, actually boasted shamelessly and raised the price. Wang Can waved his right hand and smiled coldly. "What qualifications do you have to raise the price? Do you really think we are fat sheep waiting to be slaughtered? At worst, I will just give up on this departed spirit fruit. You don't want it?" The corner of Xiao Chen's lips curled up as he tossed out a departed spirit fruit. Then he flicked his finger, and a strand of purple saber chi shot out. The saber chi shattered the departed spirit fruit with a loud bang. Black death chi immediately surged out, forming boundless, thick clouds that spread out in all directions. The originally formless death chi now turned into thick, dark clouds that spread for a kilometer without showing any signs of dissipating. The hearts of the countless corpse race and ghost race cultivators shattered at the same time as they looked at the shattered departed spirit fruit. This was a departed spirit fruit, not a rock. It was worth cities and could not be measured. Yet, Xiao Chen destroyed it without batting an eye. Wang Can gaped, flabbergasted. He stammered for a long time, unable to say anything. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "Brother Wang Can, didn't you say that you don't want it? Why are you so agitated?" "Screw you. I was just saying it. Just saying it, and you really fucking destroyed it. Yet, you still ask me why I am so agitated." Wang Can could not help cursing in his heart. However, he did not dare to say anything more. He feared that if Xiao Chen was upset, he would destroy the only remaining departed spirit fruit as well. A murderous intent flashed in Wei Hua's eyes. He lowered his head and sent a voice projection to a certain person. Then, without changing his expression, he stepped forward and said, "I offer 100,000 black astral coins and 5 rank 3 spirit veins. To you, this is a very fair price." At this moment, Xiao Chen already held the upper hand. Qing Cheng was very reluctant, but she had no choice but to accept this reality. She clenched her teeth and said, "I offer 100,000 black astral coins and 10 rank 3 spirit veins as well. 200,000 black astral coins and 15 rank 3 spirit veins." Wei Hua did not hesitate to raise the price again, clearly determined to obtain the departed spirit fruit. When the two arrived earlier, they must have brought the younger generation to search for departed spirit flowers and obtained some spirit veins along the way. Xiao Chen did not say anything. He looked at Qing Cheng, his meaning clear. If you do not raise the price, this departed spirit fruit will be the other party's. How hateful! Qing Cheng was now gnashing her teeth in hatred, feeling so much regret that her intestines turned green. Originally, she thought that by working with Xiao Chen, with so many of her clansmen and some trump cards, she would definitely be able to suppress Xiao Chen. After the matter was over, she wanted Xiao Chen to spit out everything with interest. Who could have expected such a situation to occur? What kind of person did he invite? Everything was fine, but he actually dug such a big hole for him. However, not raising the price now was out of the question. After putting in so much effort, she had already lost so many people before reaching the treasury hall. If she still could not obtain the departed spirit fruit, she would suffer a great loss. 200,000 black astral coins, 15 rank 3 spirit veins, and a sage-grade essence increasing pill that your human race needs? Both sides were bidding, neither giving way. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and watched the two sides compete. The more vicious the competition, the better. 500,000 black astral coins, 20 rank 3 spirit veins, a sage-grade inner vest, and a sage-grade essence increasing pill. Finally, Wei Hua's heart sank, and he named a price that Qing Cheng could not raise. At such a price, Qing Cheng's expression changed. After hesitating for a long time, she did not continue bidding. Such a price already surpassed the value of the departed spirit fruit. It was not worth it at all. Wei Hua was practically using up half of the resources she had. She did not know what Wei Hua was thinking. When Wei Hua saw that Qing Cheng did not say anything, he smiled and said, "Young Master Xiao, what do you think of this price? Hand over the departed spirit fruit." Naturally, I, Xiao Chen, am very satisfied with such a price. However, I will have to delay the transaction for a while. The smile on Xiao Chen's face faded. At the end of his words, his expression turned cold. With a flip of his hand, he placed the departed spirit fruit in his universe ring. Then he instantly turned around. Myriad Heaven Divine Fist, deities descending, tenfold combat prowess. A divine light descended from the sky and entered Xiao Chen's body. His aura soared infinitely, and the resplendent light on his fist was as dazzling as the sun. Bang! When Xiao Chen punched, his fist immediately clashed with Kuei-do's full power strike. This Kuei-do took advantage of the moment the two sides raised the price to sneak behind Xiao Chen. When Wei Hua announced the final price, Kuei-do thought that Xiao Chen would relax, so he immediately launched a sneak attack in the time it took for a spark to fly. However, Kuei-do did not know that with Xiao Chen's spiritual sense, he could see everything that happened around him in his mind. Not only had Kuei-do noticed Xiao Chen long ago, but he had also sensed the plot between Xiao Chen and Wei Hua and had been waiting for a long time. A thunderous roar echoed throughout the place, deafening many people for a short period of time. The instant the two fists clashed, Kuei-do immediately suffered a great loss. For the sake of maintaining the speed of his attack, he could only use 60% of his vital qi. However, Xiao Chen had been storing up power and waiting for a long time. Not only did the myriad heaven divine fist merge his vital qi, mental energy, and heavenly laws, but it also increased his combat prowess tenfold. Kuei-do vomited a mouthful of blood. Kasi. The bones in his right arm shattered. This arm would definitely be crippled for the time being. Kueido's body flew back like an arrow and smashed into the ground, creating a large pit and kicking up a cloud of dust. With the tenfold combat prowess gone, Xiao Chen's boundless aura vanished as well. His white robes fluttered. Aside from his special sharpness, there was nothing special about him. Xiao Chen swung his slightly sore arm without anyone noticing. He felt startled in his heart. A cultivator with a pure physical body was truly horrifying. Even if Kueido only used 60% of his strength, it was already frightening enough. If it were another person standing here, that person would definitely be smashed into a meat patty. However, Kueido ran into Xiao Chen, a well-prepared Xiao Chen. Kueido could only blame himself for being unlucky. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and ignored the shocked people around him. He put away the puppet snake and somersaulted in the air, leaping out of the encirclement of the two races and landing firmly on the ground. "Come out and trade," Xiao Chen said calmly. Wei Hua looked at Kueido, who fell into a deep pit and stood up in a sorry state. His lips twitched involuntarily as he silently flew out. The two faced each other and placed the items they wanted to trade into a spatial ring before their eyes. Then they stretched out their hands and pushed. They each controlled their own spatial rings and pushed them towards the other with the speed of an old ox pulling a cart. The cultivators of the two races stood in a row behind them. They did not hide the killing chi in their eyes at all, clearly eager to try. The two spatial rings brushed past each other, and the two sides immediately pulled over the other's spatial rings. "Kill him," Wei Hua said through clenched teeth. He did not even bother looking at the departed spirit fruit in his spatial ring as he retreated at his fastest speed. The ghost race and corpse race cultivators did not need Wei Hua to say anything. They were already filled with rage. The instant Wei Hua retreated, attacks rained down on Xiao Chen. Taiji Yin-Yang Flame Diagram. Xiao Chen, who had been prepared for this long ago, gently pushed off the ground and moved backward. A light flashed in his eyes. The purple thunder true fire and the lunar true flame chased each other, forming a magnificent flame diagram. The 8 trigrams, for divisions, and yin-yang condensed into a world of its own, blocking all the attacks. Boom! In just an instant, the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram turned into a golden light and disappeared. However, this short moment was enough for Xiao Chen to do many things. Chapter 838. Roaming Dragon's 9 Transformations. Change, change. Xiao Chen shouted, and his body split into 9. Then, the 9 figures changed again, turning into 81 figures. Under Xiao Chen's control, each figure spun around quickly, kicking up gusts of wind and forming 100-meter-tall tornadoes as they flew forward. Immediately, sand and rocks flew in front. When one looked around, the 81 tornadoes carried countless leaves and dust as they surged forward. The hidden Xiao Chen became even harder to distinguish. After him, naturally, Wei Hua, Wang Can, Xing Cheng, and the others would not let Xiao Chen off so easily. 100 inferior-grade martial sages led countless demonic corpses and Yin soldiers in pursuit. Bang! 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 The tornadoes were shattered by the powerful attacks, and the clones inside were instantly killed by the Yin soldiers and demonic corpses. The ghostly Yin soldiers howled in the wind. Since they did not have physical bodies, they flew the fastest. They kept chasing relentlessly, bobbing up and down in the clouds. The tornadoes shattered one by one. When there were only 8 tornadoes left, Xiao Chen made a prompt decision. He whistled and the strong wind stopped. The 8 figures merged into one in the air. Xiao Chen tilted his body and dove down, widening the distance between him and the group behind him. When Wei Hua and the others saw that Xiao Chen's clones were all destroyed, joy flashed on their faces. Then they increased their speed again. The group slowly closed the distance. Just as they were about to catch up to Xiao Chen suddenly stretched out his hand. 72 beams of light flashed from the ground. When the beams of light merged, the universe banner appeared in Xiao Chen's hand. Then he smiled gently, and electric light burst out from under his feet. His speed suddenly doubled. When the black flame sovereign snake, which had been locked up for a long time, discovered that the restriction had disappeared, it immediately soared into the air and spat out black flames. Miserable cries resounded. The cultivators of the two races that had chased after Xiao Chen were immediately unlucky, becoming the target of the Black Flame Sovereign Snake's rage. Arrows still remained in the Black Flame Sovereign Snake's body, causing it to bleed continuously. Furthermore, it had been locked up for such a long time. Its rage and rage were easy to imagine. Black Flame Sovereign Snake. Quickly retreat. Quickly retreat. Wang Can shouted, trying to gather the corpse race group together and retreat. However, the situation was chaotic. The Black Flame Sovereign Snake charged forward ferociously. As it opened its mouth, it shot out flames, completely disrupting the ferocious group. Fortunately, this was the Sage Mark Monument's inner world. If one died, one would only be sent out. Otherwise, one would suffer great losses. When Qing Cheng saw that white figure leaving calmly in the distance, her eyes turned cold. She stretched out her hand and beckoned. 8 spirits carrying a white palanquin appeared. Qing Cheng pushed off the ground and flew into the palanquin. Ji Chen and Spirit, by Chen, Spirit, Spirit, Shizhan, Corpse, Ji, Ghost Spirits, Bai and Star, Race, Ji Qing Cheng instructed. The 8 ghosts lifted the white palanquin and quickly moved forward. Ji Shizhan and Bai Su sighed speechlessly. Ever since Qing Cheng made her debut, she had never failed like this. She had been schemed against so many times. First, along the way, the various spirit veins' origins were plundered. Then Xiao Chen used them to fight the corpse race. Finally, the situation was even worse. When Xiao Chen retreated, he directly released the Black Flame Sovereign Snake. The group immediately lost more than half its members. When they went to the Treasury Hall, they would not be able to compete. More importantly, after putting in so much effort and bringing along 2 Soul Reapers, they still could not obtain the departed spirit fruit that they thought they would obtain. Everything had failed. Given her pride, she would definitely not be able to accept this. After Xiao Chen put away the universe banner and released the Black Flame Sovereign Snake, he left in a much more relaxed manner. A berserk Black Flame Sovereign Snake was not easy to deal with. It would already be pretty good if the 2 races could clean up the mess. Even if they could spare some effort to chase after Xiao Chen, there would not be too many people. If there were only a few people, there would be no need to fear him. Xiao Chen's harvest this time could be said to be very fruitful. Right now, he had 7 million astral coins and 600,000 black astral coins. In total, he had 13 million astral coins. With such wealth, he was no weaker than any noble clan scion or sect inheritor. Wei Hua's Sage Grade Inner Vest was not much. However, it was better than nothing. It was an additional layer of defense. As for the Lunar Cassia Tree and Dragon Mark fruits in the Immortal Spirit Ring, with so many spirit veins helping them mature, Ao Jiao smiled happily and busied herself. After Xiao Chen left the Sage Mark Monument, he would see the Lunar Cassia Tree blooming. The 5 Dragon Mark fruits would also be more than 800 years old. After expending so many spirit veins' origins, it was all worth it. Suddenly, Xiao Chen's footsteps stopped. He looked up and saw a dim light suddenly hovering in front of him. When the light stopped, Xiao Chen squinted and looked carefully. 8 wandering spirits carrying a white palanquin floated quietly in front of him. Young Master Xiao, good move. Qing Cheng really underestimated you. As the ancients said, suffering a loss is a blessing. Qing Cheng will remember today's loss for life. Qing Cheng's cold voice came from the palanquin. There was not much sorrow or joy in it. It seemed extremely calm. Xiao Chen carefully sized up this white palanquin. He had long felt that this palanquin was extraordinary. Now, it looked like it had some extraordinary speed at the very least. However, he did not know if it had any other functions. When Xiao Chen heard Qing Cheng's words, he did not react. His expression remained calm as he said, Miss Qing Cheng is too serious. Actually, between you and me, if we ignore the death throne, there is no unresolvable conflict between us. No wonder you are so careful. It turns out that you knew long ago that the secret of your throne was exposed. Even though I cannot obtain the departed spirit fruit, I have to obtain the death throne today. Ching Chung formed hand seals in the palanquin, and 2 cold winds blew. The 10-meter-tall black and white soul reapers arrived before Xiao Chen in a flash, holding cold, black scythes. Black and white soul reapers, according to the legends of the immortal epic, are one of the 10 great Yin masters of the underworld. They have many incarnations. Before an ordinary person dies, they will draw their soul into the underworld river to undergo the 6 paths of reincarnation. Naturally, the black and white soul reapers that my ghost race refined cannot compare to the legendary soul reapers. However, they are still as strong as medial-grade martial sages. I advise you not to resist or think of fleeing. Your speed cannot compare to the 8 ghost palanquin. Qing Cheng, who was in the palanquin, enunciated every word extremely coldly. Xiao Chen sized up the black and white soul reapers and smiled faintly. What strange confidence. Have you not thought about why I dared to leave with you even though I knew you had trump cards? Even if that black flame sovereign snake had not appeared, you would not have been able to obtain the departed spirit fruit and the death throne. This is because I will never take the initiative to enter a dangerous situation if I am not confident. Xiao Chen opened his hand, and an ancient lamp appeared in his palm. Then, he bit the tip of his tongue and sent a mouthful of essence blood containing a large amount of mental energy into the wick of the lamp. The flickering flame lit up, and the ancient lamp drifted gently into the air. Rings of light appeared behind the ancient lamp. The mysterious inscriptions on the ancient lamp gave off a jade-green light. An illusory figure became increasingly clear in the light. The immortal Tao honors life, boundlessly rescuing people. Once I recite the scriptures, all the great sages praise me. Twice I recite the scriptures, and withered bones come to life. Immortal Qi shrouded the illusory figure as it recited the mysterious scriptures. The scriptures contained the ghost Tao of reincarnation, the power to deliver all living things from suffering. Clumps of light quickly drifted away from the black and white soul reapers' bodies. The light on their bodies slowly weakened. Person cleansing scripture, Qing Cheng exclaimed in a fluster from the palanquin. Then, she quickly formed hand seals and called back the black and white soul reapers. In just a short while, the black and white soul reapers had lost 50 to 60% of their strength. With a swoosh, the white palanquin directly fell from the sky. The palanquin overturned and tilted. The 8 strands of wandering souls that were carrying the palanquin were directly expiated by the expiation scripture. Xiao Chen revealed a smile on his face and calmly put away the ancient lamp. Then he took a big step forward, stepping on electric light and disappearing from this place. Qing Chung leaped out of the palanquin with an extremely unsightly expression. With a flick of her hand, she released the 8 wandering souls and lifted the white palanquin again. Qing Chung looked in the direction that Xiao Chen had taken. After a long time, she did not give chase in the end. This time, her defeat was simply too embarrassing. She had already lost miserably in the first place. In the end, she had even foolishly charged forward and allowed herself to be trampled on. Xiao Chen had obtained the ancient lamp from where the evil king died. It was a king-grade secret treasure. Clearly, a half-sage would not be able to refine it completely. After Xiao Chen advanced to martial sage, he took some time to refine it on his way to the Kunlun mountain range. Although he could not bring out the full might of this secret treasure with his current cultivation, after using it for a while, Xiao Chen gained a rough understanding of the effects of this lamp. However, he could not help but feel somewhat disappointed. This lamp was called the reincarnation lamp. It was made from the fragments of a magic treasure from the immortal epic. After mending the formations and adding in new materials, it was refined into a secret treasure suitable for cultivators. In reality, most secret treasures above sage grade were made from the fragments of magic treasures from the immortal epic. First senior sister Shui Lingling's purple bow and In Qiong's heavenly downpour umbrella were like this. The reincarnation lamp continued the main function of the original magic treasure, summoning the souls of immortals to chant the Taoist cleansing scripture to purify the evil energy of remnant souls. A perfectly good king-grade secret treasure became useless just like that. Aside from having some restraining effect on the ghost race, it was not very useful to cultivators of the other races. It was somewhat unfortunate that this was a king-grade secret treasure. Any king-grade secret treasure in the Kunlun realm would fetch a sky-high price in an auction. Only emperor-grade secret treasures were stronger than king-grade secret treasures. However, emperor-grade secret treasures were normally used by the various sovereign sects and clans to protect their headquarters. They would not take them out easily. Without Emperor Wu's cultivation, one would not be able to bring out the might of an emperor-grade secret treasure. For people of Xiao Chen's cultivation, king-grade secret treasures were the most suitable secret treasures. However, perhaps after refining it completely, the reincarnation lamp might have some other uses. After all, it was left behind by the evil king. Xiao Chen raised his head and looked at the distant pillar of light reaching into the sky. Anticipation flashed in his eyes. He wondered what kind of surprise the treasury hall would have. There were still 5 more days before Xiao Chen would be sent out of the Sage Mark Monument. He had to rush over. Chapter 839. Xiao Chen muttered to himself for a while before descending from the sky and sitting cross-legged on the ground. He started recovering his energy. He intended to use Thunder Dragon steps to rush over after he recovered to his peak state. Xiao Chen circulated the purple thunder divine incantation, and the surrounding spiritual energy slowly poured into the 300 heavenly sage laws in his body. The heavenly sage laws hungrily absorbed the spiritual energy of the world. The color of the heavenly sage laws slowly turned denser and fuller. The electric light around Xiao Chen spread out uncontrollably, forming a faint light screen. After a while, Xiao Chen opened his eyes, and a brilliant light flashed in them. After advancing to martial sage, his recovery speed was much faster than before. The amount of energy he could store was also incomparable to before. Electric light burst out from under Xiao Chen's feet. He did not hesitate to execute Thunder Dragon steps and dashed through the air. With a raise of his leg, he crossed 5 kilometers. The wind howled by his ears. As he moved like a meteor chasing the moon, Xiao Chen could clearly feel a resistance restricting his speed. He did not feel this resistance when he burst out over a short distance. However, once he moved a long distance, he could feel it easily. This was the void barrier of the Kunlun realm. Unless he shattered space and entered the void, he would find it hard to increase his speed. If he forcefully increased his speed, he might even injure his physical body. Xiao Chen thought for a while and discovered that with his physical body, he should be able to endure another 20% increase in speed. However, this was already his limit. Even if he wanted to increase his speed, he would not be able to do so. Xiao Chen moved at full speed without any worries. He moved like a bolt of lightning, shooting through the sky. The people below could only see 2 lightning dragons flickering in the air. They could not even see the figures on them. Soon, Xiao Chen left the vast savanna behind. The pillar of light in the distance became increasingly clearer. A look of joy appeared in Xiao Chen's bright eyes. At this rate, he should be able to reach the treasury hall before sunset. Suddenly, Xiao Chen, who was dashing through the sky, stopped. The sounds of fighting attracted his attention. After traveling such a long distance, Xiao Chen noticed more than one fight. However, he did not stop. The reason why the battle below could attract his attention was because the protagonists of both sides were not insignificant figures. 3 deity race keepers of light led 10-odd deity race cultivators, clashing intensely with the fiend race team led by the Peacock King's descendant, Kong Yuan. Kong Yuan's side seemed to be in a bad situation. The 13 guardians of the celestial race didn't seem to be very famous within the celestial race. Their radiance was suppressed by the divine son and divine daughter. But in the outer races, all of them were extremely talented youths. With Kong Yuan's strength, he could easily defeat one of them, and he could barely defeat 2 of them. Facing 3 of them would be too much. Being able to guarantee that he would not be defeated within 1,000 moves was already an extraordinary feat. In addition, the overall strength of the God Race warriors was much higher than that of the Monster Race warriors. Although Kong Yuan's troops had the advantage in numbers, it was only a matter of time before they were defeated. It's Xiao Chen. Quickly release the signal and inform the people in other directions. The mental energy of the deity race cultivators was extraordinary. The moment Xiao Chen paused in the air, he was immediately discovered by the three guardians. One of them shook his right hand, preparing to release the signal. Xiao Chen frowned. Originally, he had not planned on meddling in other people's business. However, he instantly made up his mind. With a flip of his hand, the Soul Slayer bow appeared. Xiao Chen knocked an arrow and drew the string. He executed this series of actions very smoothly. All his vital chi surged out without holding anything back. It seemed like thunder rumbled in Xiao Chen's body. A formless aura gathered in the surroundings as the bowstring was drawn. The Soul Slayer bow was as mighty as its vital chi. However, Xiao Chen rarely used its full power. The damage to his arm would be too great. At most, he would only need to draw it 3 more times before his arm would be crippled. However, at this moment, Xiao Chen could not care so much. Xiao Chen released his fingers, and the arrow tore through the air, disappearing in a flash. Before the guardian with his right arm could release the signal, the arrow pierced through his wrist. His wrist was pierced by the arrow, the tail of the arrow trembling, bringing with it a massive force, directly pulling him to the ground. The arrow pierced through his wrist and stabbed into the ground along with his arm. Buzz! Only at this moment did the sound of the arrow tearing through the air reach Xiao Chen's ears. The speed of this arrow had already surpassed the speed of sound by several times. Xiao Chen returned the bow to the universe ring. Just as that guardian's leg and arm were pinned to the ground by the arrow, electric light surged under Xiao Chen's feet and he quickly gave chase. Xiao Chen's speed was frighteningly fast. The guardian's heartbeat suddenly sped up. His sea of consciousness surged, and his strong mental energy turned into thousands of weapons flowing with holy light. These weapons surged out, trying to stop Xiao Chen for a moment. Dragon tone art, break. Xiao Chen roared, and the sound waves turned into a dragon-shaped shockwave surging out. Kasi. The thousands of weapons shattered, turning into boundless holy light spreading everywhere. However, they could not stop Xiao Chen at all. The deity race guardian, who had just pulled the arrow out of his wrist, endured the intense pain. Before he could get up, he saw a bolt of lightning flashing in the spreading holy light. In the next moment, a white figure leaped out. This person held a saber hilt with both hands and pointed the long saber downwards. The saber carried the momentum of lightning as it pierced through the guardian's inner vest, pinning him to the ground again. However, this time, the target was not the wrist but the heart, a fatal spot for any cultivator. A light flashed, and this guardian died on the spot, teleported out of the Sage Mark Monument. When Kong Yuan saw Xiao Chen make a move, he could not help rejoicing. His figure trembled, and he revealed his fiend body, a huge blue peacock flickering with light. Kong Yuan firmly suppressed the 2 guardians, who were preparing to retreat, forcing them to retreat. Since Xiao Chen made a move, there was naturally no need to think about anything else. He pushed off the ground and worked with Kong Yuan to deal with the 2 guardians. Kong Yuan alone could defeat 2 guardians. With Xiao Chen's help, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. Soon he killed the 2. The blue peacock gave off a berserk aura. Under its beautiful appearance was an immeasurable ferocity. After the 3 guardians died, the remaining deity race cultivators decisively scattered and fled. They did not linger or fight to the death. Kong Yuan reverted to his human form and looked at Xiao Chen, who sheathed his saber. His expression was somewhat complicated. However, he still said happily, "Many thanks for your help this time." The 2 had a grudge in the heavenly dew divine spring. Just as they were about to fight, Di Wuk had appeared and stopped them. Now, coincidentally, they worked together because of the deity race. Xiao Chen was not that narrow-minded. He did not have any irreconcilable grudges with Kong Yuan, nor did they have any conflicts of interest. If Xiao Chen could gain another friend through this matter, it might not be a bad thing. Xiao Chen said calmly, "You are too polite. With your strength, you should be able to leave after revealing your fiend form." Kong Yuan glanced at the remaining fiend race cultivators and sighed softly, "The treasury hall is not far away. It is too unfortunate that these clansmen have stopped here. If I can put in some effort, I will do my best as well." Xiao Chen felt excited. To think that Kong Yuan could still think about his clansmen in such a situation, he could be considered a man. His status as the Peacock King's descendant was not in vain. Let's not talk about this for now. Why are those deity race cultivators attacking you here? Xiao Chen asked out of curiosity. They were almost at the treasury hall. What were they doing here instead of searching for treasures? Kong Yuan's expression turned sullen. He said, Di Wuk led the deity race's people and arrived here first. They guarded the passageways and blocked all the cultivators of the other races who tried to get close. What a big move. With the strength of one race, he wants to block all the cultivators of the other races? Di Wuk's appetite is too big. Could it be that he wants to take all the secret treasures in the treasury hall by himself? Xiao Chen voiced his doubts. Kong Yuan shook his head and explained, it's not like that. As long as the cultivators who enter the treasury hall obtain 2 secret treasures, they will automatically be sent out. The treasury hall has a total of 5 floors. Each floor has a king-grade secret treasure. What Di Wuk really cares about are these 5 king-grade secret treasures. His main purpose is to delay us. Of course, if we are weaker, we will be chased out of the Sage Mark Monument. Xiao Chen found this strange. He asked, the Sage Mark Monument opens once every 10 years. It has been passed down for tens of thousands of years. Could it be that the secret treasures in there have not been emptied out? Kong Yuan could not explain this either. He replied, I'm not sure about that. In any case, every 10 years, there will be more secret treasures in the treasury hall. There will be at least 5 king-grade secret treasures. There are rumors that the Sage Mark Monument does not exist alone. There are strong and mysterious existences in there as well. Those secret treasures were collected or refined by those strong existences. Xiao Chen thought for a while. If there really was a mysterious existence that could freely enter and exit the Sage Mark Monument, how strong would that existence be? After all, when the Sage Mark Monument opened, even sovereign martial emperors could not get close. Only inferior-grade martial emperors could enter. Could that mysterious existence be even stronger than sovereign martial emperors? However, these were just guesses. Perhaps there was no mysterious existence. I want to meet up with the Fox King's descendant, Yuan Su. Let's part ways here. If we meet in the treasury hall, we can compete based on our own abilities. How about that? When Kong Yuan saw that the group of fiend race cultivators had more or less recovered, he prepared to take his leave. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, that would be for the best. Goodbye. As Kong Yuan watched Xiao Chen leave, his expression slowly turned grave. A fiend race old man behind Kong Yuan walked over and said, this Xiao Chen really has some of the elegance of the Qing Emperor back then. With just a raise of his hand, he destroyed a deity race keeper of light. Such strength is probably no weaker than Di Wuk's. Kong Yuan calmly analyzed, he does indeed have some of the elegance of the Qing Emperor. However, compared to Di Wuk, he is still lacking. Earlier, he killed that keeper of light mostly because of the bow in his hand. In the end, his accumulations are still lacking. Even now, Di Wuk's true strength is a mystery. However, Xiao Chen's potential is very terrifying. Who could have imagined that he had only been in the Kunlun realm for a mere 2 years? After parting with Kong Yuan, Xiao Chen met with several outstanding talents who had broken through the deity race's blockade. All of them rushed to the treasury hall. Chapter 840. There were only 5 king-grade secret treasures. Di Wuk had already taken the lead. Who knew how long the traps and restrictions along the way could hold him back? Xiao Chen could not help but quicken his pace. After half a day, he finally arrived at the doors of the vast treasury hall. The doors were already open. The words, Treasury Hall, were carved on the doors, looking very charming. Several cultivators who passed by Xiao Chen paused their gazes on him for a while. Their eyes revealed an expression that could not be underestimated. Xiao Chen dared to face off against Di Wuk at the Sage Mark Monument, stood at the top of the Sage Mark Monument for the first time, and kicked away the insufferably arrogant Di Wuk. After this matter, the name white-robed Xiao Chen would definitely spread. When the descendants of the Qing Emperor reappeared, they would definitely stir up a storm. Shifting his gaze away from the doors, Xiao Chen stepped in. After he entered, he arrived at a spacious room. Ancient murals decorated the walls, and there were 9 passageways in the surroundings, waiting for cultivators to choose. Choose whichever one you like. Every passageway will lead to the Great Hall where the King Grade's secret treasure is. Then, you can enter the next floor from there. Ao Jiao, who was in the Immortal Spirit Ring. Back then, the Thunder King had been here. Naturally, Ao Jiao was familiar with this place. Just as Xiao Chen was about to choose, someone suddenly walked in from outside, attracting his attention. That person had a horrified expression. Clearly, he had not expected to meet Xiao Chen like this. Xiao Chen glanced over. After he saw this person's appearance, he ignored him and calmly chose a passageway. Inside the spacious room, an indescribable hatred flashed in by Wu Xue's eyes. In just half a year, the other party was not even interested in looking at him. There were stone doors on both sides of the passageways. Xiao Chen entered a few stone rooms. Aside from puppet fragments, there was nothing on the ground. Clearly, someone had already taken away the secret treasures. After that, Xiao Chen could not be bothered to enter the stone chambers anymore. Instead, he continued on his way. Every now and then, he would encounter some combat puppets. He did not hold back and dealt with them as quickly as he could. After a while, he arrived at the main hall that led to the lower level. In the middle of the hall, there was a stone platform with a sword box on it, flickering with electricity. Above the stone platform, sparks formed by lightning drifted down, appearing extremely strange. There was a small teleportation formation hovering in midair. It was flickering incessantly. It should be the path to the upper levels. Ao Jiao, who was in the Immortal Spirit Ring, rubbed her head and said doubtfully, "Strange, why did Di Wuk not take away this King Grade's secret treasure?" Xiao Chen thought for a while and answered, "It's not strange. Di Wuk and Tianyu, she can only take 4 secret treasures together. They will definitely give up one." Aside from Xiao Chen, there were a few others in the Great Hall. They stared at the extreme thunder sword on the stone platform, revealing a strong desire to possess it. Xiao Chen sized them up and discovered that he had met most of them once before. On the west side were 2 men and 1 woman. They were the merfolk from the chaotic demonic sea. In the Great Hall, these 3 showed the most urgent expressions. On the north side was a fiend race cultivator in blue. Before he left his name on the Sage Mark monument, Xiao Chen had noticed this person. According to Ying Qiong, this person was known as the Azure Wolf Swordsman. He was the scion of a fiend race noble clan in the Profound Domain. The Azure Wolf Swordsman's accumulations were no weaker than a human sovereign noble clan's. The Azure Wolf King was the Emperor Wu of the Azure Wolf race. Although the Azure Wolf King was not a sovereign martial emperor, the Azure Wolf race had no connection to the Fiend Domain. It was rumored that the Azure Wolf King had an irreconcilable grudge with the Fox King and was chased out by the Fox King. Not far away were 3 deity race old men. Although they were not keepers, they were at least 100 years old. By relying on their deep cultivation and mental energy martial techniques unique to the deity race, they could contend with the demonic geniuses of the younger generation. The person across from Xiao Chen was a middle-aged man radiating a sharp sword intent. As he gazed at the sword box, he appeared extremely fervent. As a swordsman, his greatest wish was to obtain a good sword. This middle-aged man's sword intent inspired some fear in Xiao Chen. He even suspected that this person had condensed a sword soul. The Kunlun realm was filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. It was not surprising that there were some hidden experts. There were also several cultivators of the various races trying to fish in troubled waters. All of them had fervent gazes. Perhaps there were experts that Xiao Chen had not noticed among them. However, this had nothing to do with Xiao Chen. He did not practice the sword and did not have any desire to possess the treasure sword in the sword box. He could only obtain 2 secret treasures here. He could not waste this opportunity on unrelated secret treasures. Outstanding talents of the Kunlun realm. I am the princess of the chaotic demonic sea's merfolk race, Yao Yen. My race is currently facing a calamity. Would everyone please let us have this extreme thunder sword? This little girl represents the merfolk race and owes everyone a favor. We will definitely repay it in the future. Just as Xiao Chen prepared to leave, that merfolk race girl stepped forward and pleaded sincerely. Xiao Chen could not help but laugh in his heart. This girl was really naive. With the allure of a king-grade secret treasure, who would listen to her pleas and back out? Ha! Do you take us for fools? The Azure Wolf swordsman laughed mockingly. What does the life and death of the merfolk race have to do with us? The middle-aged swordsman stared straight at the sword box on the stone platform. It was like he did not hear what this girl said. He muttered to himself, "This sword is called the Extreme Thunder Sword? This name is really unpleasant. After I obtain it, I should change it to a new name." As for the three deity race old men, they were even more overboard. They smiled coldly and said, "The merfolk race dares to come to our Kunlun continent and issue orders? Do they think our deity race does not exist? Your Highness, why the need to speak so much with them? Just directly attack." Mu Yun, with his explosive temper, could not help getting angry. However, Mu Yun's big brother, Mu Lei, showed a grave expression. He did not say anything. If they tried to attack, their chances of success would be 50% at best. How could it be that simple? Young Master Xiao, along the way, I've heard many people talk about you. Back then, our merfolk race once helped the Qing Emperor in his conquest of the sea. As a descendant of the Qing Emperor, can you show some consideration for old times? Suddenly, that merfolk race girl's voice rang out in Xiao Chen's mind. He could not help but give her a strange look. That merfolk race girl did not avoid Xiao Chen's gaze. She continued to send a voice projection, "My race is really at a critical juncture of life and death. We urgently need this extreme thunder sword to save us. If you help this little girl today, the merfolk race will definitely remember your kindness." Xiao Chen remained silent, not saying anything. He had never been a person who would let a few words affect his heart. However, at this moment, he hesitated. The mysterious sword box lay quietly on the stone platform. The flaming flowers formed by electric light fell down. The outstanding talents from all over eyed this extreme thunder sword like a tiger watching its prey. Even if Xiao Chen could not use it, it would fetch a sky-high price at an auction. This sword was not some unpopular weapon. The merfolk race's Princess Yao Yen showed some anticipation in her eyes as she quietly waited for Xiao Chen's answer. Never mind. If the merfolk race really helped the Qing Emperor back then, I will repay this kindness today. I only hope that you are not lying to me. Ghosts and demons roamed the world. Who was real and who was fake? How could one listen to the words of one clan? Xiao Chen took a risk and trusted the other party for now, acknowledging his identity as the Qing Emperor's descendant. After all, there were some matters of the past that he needed to face. Many thanks, young Master Xiao. Princess Yao Yen heaved a sigh of relief. With Xiao Chen's help and the three of them working together, they had a 70% chance of obtaining the extreme thunder sword. The atmosphere was rather quiet. No one dared to make a move rashly. They all looked cautiously at the others, secretly storing up their auras. Xiao Chen frowned slightly. He did not have time to waste here. He needed to use his lightning-quick means to obtain this extreme thunder sword. Electric light flashed under Xiao Chen's feet, and he instantly stood on the stone platform. He looked at the sword box below but did not touch it. He looked calmly at the surroundings and said, "I, Xiao Chen, want this sword. If anyone is not convinced, feel free to come and fight me." Seeing that a bladesman like Xiao Chen actually became interested in this extreme thunder sword, the expressions of everyone present immediately turned uncertain. Everyone saw Xiao Chen's strength for themselves. The explosive power of his Thunder Dragon steps far surpassed that of most of the cultivators here. However, if Xiao Chen could make them retreat with just one sentence, they would not be convinced. No matter what, Xiao Chen was just a lower realm genius who came to the Kunlun realm 2 years ago. What bold words! Do you really think that you are the Qing Emperor? Even Di Wuk would not dare to say that, the Azure Wolf swordsman said with a sullen expression. The Green Wolf swordsman said with a sullen expression. He was lacking a suitable treasure sword. How could he allow others to encroach on it? The middle-aged human swordsman's gaze was like lightning, as sharp as a sword. He placed his right hand on his sword hilt, and his sword intent buzzed, kicking up sword winds in the surroundings. The three deity race old men felt boundless hatred for Xiao Chen. The old man in the middle smiled coldly and said, "Everyone, there is no need to say anything to him. Just attack together. Let this fellow know the consequences of being arrogant." The inferior grade martial sages of the various races who were trying to fish in troubled waters all had eager eyes. To them, the more chaotic it was, the better. Clearly, Xiao Chen's words had achieved their goal. Suddenly, a resplendent light lit up. An unparalleled sword intent blew like a berserk wind. The wind howled endlessly, spreading throughout the entire hall. It seemed like a strand of sword chi streaked across everyone's eyes. The first to make a move was actually the middle-aged swordsman. The moment he made a move, he revealed his strong strength. That berserk sword intent gave the many cultivators the illusion that he was unblockable. Don't make a move first. When you find an opportunity, take the sword yourself. Yao Yan, who was preparing to help, suddenly heard Xiao Chen's voice projection in his mind. He could not help but stop what he was doing. Xiao Chen's pupils constricted, and he narrowed his eyes. He stared directly at that strand of unparalleled sword intent. The unparalleled saber chi in his body clashed with it without fear. When the light scattered, a sword appeared in front of Xiao Chen. The middle-aged swordsman had already pressed forward and brandished his sword intent. A sword light flowed, and he executed an exquisite sword technique that complemented his consummation sword intent. Sword lights flickered in 72 directions. The middle-aged swordsman's figure appeared. Every sword strike was real, without any falsehood. The middle-aged swordsman was very satisfied with this move of his. He specialized in fast swords, and his sword techniques focused on speed. If one wanted to break his sword, one had to be faster than him. Chapter 841. Xiao Chen placed his right hand on the saber hilt and instantly executed the Qing Emperor's drawing the saber. The middle-aged swordsman immediately felt like he had nowhere to hide. His 72 sword images were clearly attacking Xiao Chen. However, when Xiao Chen placed his right hand on the saber hilt, everything seemed to turn around. The middle-aged swordsman's heart sank, and his expression changed greatly. Relying on his swordsman's intuition, he decisively withdrew his move and retreated. The 72 sword images merged together, and his figure flashed. The Azure Wolf swordsman, who leaped after the middle-aged swordsman, was not as lucky. The middle-aged swordsman brushed past him. However, one advanced while the other retreated. Electric light flickered, and the slender lunar shadow saber attacked from an angle that the Azure Wolf swordsman could not have imagined. The saber light struck the Azure Wolf swordsman's side, and the strong lightning-attributed energy exploded. The Azure Wolf swordsman's body flew into the wall of the hall like a cannonball. In the time it took for a spark to fly, everything happened unimaginably fast. In the time that Xiao Chen used his saber to attack, one of the two swordsmen was forced back, and the other was knocked back. Deity's nation, inextinguishable spear. Deity's nation, inextinguishable sword. Deity's nation, inextinguishable divine halberd. The three deity race old men worked together to execute the deity race's combination martial technique that Xiao Chen had seen before. A golden light appeared behind them, materializing a boundless sea and a divine kingdom rising and falling. Xiao Chen did not dare to underestimate them. He immediately took out his greatest trump card. Using lightning-fast means, he attacked before this combination martial technique was perfectly connected. Taiji Yin-Yang Flame Diagram. The purple thunder true fire and the lunar true fire chased each other, forming a charming scene. As they spun, they merged into the world. The vertical Taiji Yin-Yang Flame Diagram pressed forward with a strong might. Bang, bang, bang. There were 3 explosions, and the 3 weapons infused with divine light turned into light and scattered. However, the light of the Taiji Yin-Yang Flame Diagram did not diminish. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand and pointed. The Taiji Yin-Yang Flame Diagram swept out at an even faster speed, crashing into the 3. The golden sea behind him surged with huge waves as it roared ferociously, resisting with all its might. But in the end, the divine kingdom sank to the bottom of the sea, never to come out again. The sea disappeared, and the 3 god race elders each spat out a mouthful of blood. The Taiji yin-yang flame diagram pushed forward, crashing into the walls of the hall, and severely injuring them once again. Xiaoqun used his absolute strength and showed no mercy, suppressing these three people without any fear. This was because he had absolute confidence in his own strength. With a flash of light, the two flames returned to his eyes. Two loud sword chimes resounded. The green wolf swordsman and the middle-aged human swordsman charged over again. Dragon is as long and dragon. Dragon. Dragon took. Dao was. Xiao Xiao Tian's Chen's SSS's star. And on. Two dragon-shaped saber chi came out of the long saber, flying at the middle-aged swordsman. Even Emperor Wu could only receive this dragon playing with pearl head-on. This move was sufficient to fluster this middle-aged swordsman for a long time. After dealing with this troublesome middle-aged swordsman, Xiaoqun brandished his saber and clashed with the azure wolf swordsman. When the saber and sword clashed, sparks flew, creating a dazzling light. Boom! When the many cultivators below saw that Xiaoqun could not extricate himself, they rejoiced. They swarmed over and flew towards the stone platform. Xiaoqun turned his head to take a look, and the blazing purple thunder true fire in his right eye poured out, forming a sea of fire. The ferocious purple thunder true fire instantly struck the cultivator at the very front. The group of people on fire immediately cried out miserably. They fell to the ground and rolled around in pain, trying to think of all sorts of ways to extinguish the fire. The fire was ferocious. The electricity contained in it crackled and flickered, forcing the group of cultivators back. When the three merfolk race cultivators saw this fire, their eyes lit up. They were clearly very excited. Still not retrieving the sword? What are you waiting for? Seeing the three stunned people, Xiaoqun could not help but feel angry. The purple thunder true fire would not be able to block this group of people for long. After the middle-aged swordsman dealt with the twin dragons playing with pearls, it would be difficult for him to retrieve the sword. At this moment, this was the best opportunity to retrieve the sword. He could not understand why the three were not moving. Princess Yao Yen was the first to startle to her senses. Her figure flashed, and while everyone was busy, she effortlessly placed the sword box into her universe ring. Xiaoqun heaved a sigh of relief and withdrew the purple thunder true fire. After knocking back the azure wolf swordsman, he slowly landed on the stone platform. Looking at the empty stone platform, the others recovered their wits, startled awake. It turned out that Xiaoqun and the merfolk race had worked together. They were so high-profile just to attract everyone's attention. Xiaoqun sheathed his saber and hid the sharpness in his eyes. He looked around and smiled faintly. The treasure already has an owner. There is no need to continue fighting. The middle-aged swordsman, who had withstood the dragon playing with pearl, appeared to be in a sorry state. He wiped the blood off his lips and glared at Xiaoqun angrily. Then, his figure flashed and entered the transportation formation in the air. The azure wolf swordsman felt very depressed in his heart. He kept feeling like he had been tricked, played by Xiaoqun in front of so many people. As for the three deity race old men, they had already left this place long ago. Xiaoqun had utterly defeated them in one move. There was no place for them to show their old faces. The many martial sages who were preparing to fish in troubled waters all looked at Xiaoqun with some fear. Then, they quickly entered the transportation formation in the air and went to the lower levels. Soon, only Xiaoqun and the three merfolk race old men remained. Princess Yao Yen walked over leisurely with a blue headscarf in her hand. She handed it over and said, "Words cannot express my gratitude for your great kindness. This headscarf is not a secret treasure. However, it has a refreshing and calming effect. I hope young Master Xiao will accept it." Xiaoqun received the headscarf and felt a chill invade his body. His entire body trembled as he felt his earlier fatigue vanish. His body now radiated boundless vitality. This headscarf did not look as ordinary as the other party made it out to be. Xiaoqun put it away and muttered to himself, "We will meet again if we are fated to. Goodbye." Seeing Xiaoqun vanish from the transportation formation, Mu Yun could not help asking, "Your Highness, why did you not clarify things with him? He clearly used the purple thunder true fire earlier." that is much stronger than the extreme thunder true fire. If he was willing to help, the hidden danger of the merfolk race could be resolved. Mu Lei nodded as well and said, I think this Xiao-Qin is not a cold-blooded and emotionless person. If he is willing to help just because of the favor my race had with the Qing Emperor 10,000 years ago, he might be willing to help to the end. A bitter look flashed in Yao Yan's sky-blue eyes. She smiled faintly and said, Never mind. With the extreme thunder sword, the problem should be more or less resolved. It has already been 10,000 years. Even I am embarrassed to say it out loud. How could I have the face to say it? Xiao-Qin did not feel too much about repaying his ancestors' kindness while he was at it. As for whether the other party was speaking the truth or not, he would just believe it for now. On the second floor of the treasury hall, the number of stone rooms with secret treasures that had not been taken away increased. Xiao-Qin was not in a rush to go up. Unlike the others, Xiao-Qin did not focus on the king-grade secret treasures on this trip to the treasury hall. If possible, Xiao-Qin hoped to choose 1 or 2 high-quality sage-grade secret treasures that were compatible with him. Firstly, king-grade secret treasures were not easy to obtain. Secondly, after obtaining them, he would be temporarily limited by his cultivation. It would be difficult to refine them and bring out their full effects. Most importantly, after obtaining them, he might discover that they were unorthodox secret treasures similar to the reincarnation lamp. What Xiao-Qin needed were secret treasures that were compatible with him. For example, his empty hands lacked a pair of gloves that could increase his speed. Previously, after he advanced to superior-grade martial monarch, the gloves had lost their effects and had been abandoned in the universe ring for a long time. Furthermore, the shoes on Xiao-Qin's feet no longer had the effect of increasing his speed. It was a pity that Lung Yu had to reforge these 2 secret treasures. Occasionally, the ocean blue headscarf on Xiao-Qin's forehead would circulate a cold qi around his body, giving him a refreshing and comfortable feeling. Under the influence of the headscarf, Xiao-Qin, who had been somewhat anxious, calmed down completely, becoming as traceless as the autumn water. Xiao-Qin's mind became clearer about his own desires and desires. His mind reached his heart and removed many of the distracting thoughts. If Xiao-Qin still did not know that this headscarf was a supreme treasure, he would really be a blockhead. Why does this headscarf look like Neptune's headscarf? Could it be that Neptune's relic was really passed down? Ao Jiao sized up the blue headscarf on Xiao-Qin's forehead as she commented. Bang! In the stone room, Xiao-Qin sheathed his saber and punched the combat puppet guarding this place. Then he struck it one last time, shattering it into countless pieces. Xiao-Qin opened the wooden box in the stone room and took a look. He was somewhat disappointed to find a sword brimming with spiritual energy inside. After walking out of the stone room, Xiao-Qin took some time to ask, what is Neptune's headscarf? According to legend, Neptune had a very violent temper. He was a tyrant through and through. Once he flared up, the entire Kunlun realm's sea would surge with huge waves. Tsunamis would surge up to the sky, and torrential rain would fall incessantly. Several innocent life forms would die. For the sake of helping him control his temper, his daughter put in a lot of effort. She traveled all over the forbidden lands at the bottom of the sea and knitted a headscarf for him. Every time he flared up, he would wear it, saving many lives. Xiao-Qin felt slightly surprised. If this headscarf really was Neptune's headscarf, then his earlier help was not worth the reward. He had thought that it was just an ordinary headscarf, so he did not hold back and casually accepted it. Actually, when he thought about it carefully, the merfolk race had dominated the chaotic demonic sea for so many years. How could the merfolk race's princess casually give out some gifts as thanks? As Xiao-Qin searched the various stone rooms for the secret treasures he needed, he chatted with Ao Jiao about the past of the sea. Thus, he did not feel bored. 10,000 years ago, the Neptune Palace was incredibly powerful. Neptune's strength was even more terrifying. It frequently interfered with the continent and even had the intention of overthrowing the continent. The Qing Emperor entered the sea 3 times and fought with it before he finally defeated Neptune. Then he moved the human factions over and fought for many years. Finally, he swept away all the remnant factions of the Neptune Palace. When Ao Jiao spoke of the secrets of the past, Xiao Chen felt the strength of the Qing Emperor once again. Sweeping through everything, unrivaled. The strongest sovereign martial emperor of the post-ancient era truly lived up to his reputation. Chapter 842. Kasi. This time, when the wooden chest opened, Xiao Chen's eyes lit up, revealing intense interest. The chest contained 3 black arrows covered in talisman scripts and flowing with light. Xiao Chen scanned them with his spiritual sense and felt the surging energy contained in them. There was also a jade strip beside the 3 arrows. Xiao Chen held the jade strip in his hand and sent his spiritual sense into it. Then he obtained some information about the arrows. This arrow was called the Starbreaker arrow. As its name suggested, it could pierce through a star. Of course, the star here was definitely not a very large star. However, based on the might described in the jade strip, this arrow could pierce through a Grandmaster-level martial sage if they did not pay attention. The might of this arrow was focused on breaking. No secret treasure would be able to block it. The only problem was that it could only be used once. As Xiao Chen continued reading, the smile on his face grew wider. Unexpectedly, the Starbreaker arrow's forging method, the materials needed, how to carve the formation scripts, the ratio of fire, and many more were listed in great detail. That's it. Inside the treasury hall, Xiao Chen chose the first secret treasure he needed. Perhaps the others would be lucky and obtain an unknown king-grade secret treasure from Diwuk. However, Xiao Chen did not envy them at all. Being able to obtain a secret treasure like the Starbreaker arrow that suited him made this trip worthwhile. Furthermore, there were the various spirit veins that he obtained earlier, the black astral coins that he extorted from Wei Hua, and 3 mature departed spirit flowers. This trip to the Sage Mark Monument was a perfect one. After putting away the Starbreaker arrow, Xiao Chen started to choose his second secret treasure. Xiao Chen had a relaxed mood and walked quietly. Occasionally, he chatted with Ao Jiao about some interesting things. Xiao Chen formed a sharp contrast with the other cultivators in the treasury hall, who were filled with surging killing qi and in a rush. As a result, he slowed down a lot. By the time Diwuk and Tianyushi reached the 5th floor, he had barely reached the 3rd floor. Even the ghost race and corpse race cultivators, who were slower than Diwuk, had already caught up to him, rushing to the 5th floor in a hurry. They feared that Diwuk would clear the final hurdle and snatch away the last precious king-grade secret treasure. When Xiao Chen arrived at the transportation formation on the 3rd floor, he saw an empty stone platform and shattered combat puppets littering the ground. Needless to say, Diwuk had already taken away the king-grade secret treasure. Most of the stone rooms on the 4th floor had not been opened yet, giving Xiao Chen more choices. The combat puppets inside also grew stronger. Xiao Chen had reached a point where he could not defeat them without going all out. As the 10-day deadline for entering the Sage Mark Monument approached, Xiao Chen still had not chosen his second secret treasure. Along the way, he came across some secret treasures that tempted him. However, after careful consideration, he chose to give them up. There were practically no cultivators left in the treasury hall. Most of them had obtained 2 secret treasures and were sent out of the Sage Mark Monument. However, Xiao Chen still had not come out. Outside the Sage Mark Monument, the sky was clear for thousands of kilometers around. The sun shone brightly. Occasionally, figures came out of the Sage Mark Monument, revealing joyful expressions. Not to mention the treasury hall, the Sage Mark Monument was filled with natural treasures. As long as a cultivator was not particularly unlucky, they would gain something. Boom! A golden radiance shot out from the Sage Mark Monument. Under the illumination of the sunlight, the glow on the figure's body seemed even more dazzling. Diwuk came out. Those 2 took away all the king-grade secret treasures of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors. I wonder if they took away the king-grade secret treasures of the 5th floor? Immediately, the cultivators of the various races below cast their gazes over. Everyone knew about the deity race's actions around the treasury hall. Nearly all the cultivators heading to the treasury hall were obstructed, giving Diwuk and Tianyushi an advantage. Soon, another beam of light shot out of the Sage Mark Monument. The sons of the human race's 3 holy masters, the fiend races Kong Yuan and Yuan Su, The ghost races Qing Cheng, the corpse races Wang Can, Wei Hua, and the other demonic geniuses all walked out with extremely unsightly expressions. Based on the expressions of these young cultivators, the result was clear. Di Wuk and Tian Yu she had snatched away the 4 king-grade secret treasures. At this thought, everyone sucked in a deep breath. Of the 5 king-grade secret treasures, aside from the one that Shao Chen had given up on, the deity race had taken away the rest. Di Wuk's schemes and strength were displayed once again, becoming the biggest winner of this trip to the Sage Mark Monument. Where is Shao Chen? Why is he not out yet? After the corpse race's Wei Hua landed, he immediately asked the cultivators of his race about Shao Chen's whereabouts. Wei Hua's lips twitched as he did his best to suppress the rage in his heart. The same scene happened with the ghost race and the deity race. They all asked about Shao Chen's whereabouts. Their gazes all turned sullen, like they wanted to eat someone up. Clearly, they were not concerned about Shao Chen. After receiving a negative answer, they all burst into an uproar, their expressions filled with doubt. Perhaps the biggest winner of this trip to the Sage Mark Monument was Di Wuk. However, in terms of who was in the limelight, even Di Wuk would be suppressed by Shao Chen. First, Shao Chen kicked Di Wuk away at the Sage Mark Monument. Then he single-handedly tricked the ghost race and corpse race experts. After that, Shao Chen repelled the various experts in the treasury hall and helped the merfolk race obtain the extreme thunder sword. He treated the king-grade secret treasures as nothing, giving them away so easily. Shao Chen's unconventional actions, his exceptional sharpness, and his strong strength. Whether the deity race's people admitted it or not, Shao Chen already had some of the glory of the Qing Emperor back then. However, at this moment, all the young demonic geniuses of the various races had come out. However, Shao Chen was nowhere to be seen. This was very strange. Hence, a scene that had not occurred in 1,000 years appeared in front of the Sage Mark Monument. The cultivators of the various races had already obtained something. However, because of one name, they all stood guard in front of the Sage Mark Monument, unwilling to leave. The people waiting outside for Shao Chen to come out to vent their frustrations felt very conflicted when they did not see Shao Chen come out. Shao Chen, who was in the treasury hall, felt conflicted as well. He felt conflicted over the fact that the deadline was approaching, but he had not found a high-quality sage-grade secret treasure like the Starbreaker arrow that moved him at first glance. After putting in a lot of effort, Shao Chen knocked out 3 combat puppets in a stone room on the 5th floor. Then he arrived at the treasure chest containing the secret treasure. If Shao Chen still could not find a secret treasure that moved him, he could only return and pick a secret treasure that he had in reserve. When the wooden chest opened, a folded black cloak appeared. This cloak was different from ordinary cloaks. Its design was exquisite, and the materials it was made of were exquisite. There were feather shoulder pads on the shoulders. Silver threads were embedded at the edges of the cloak. It did not look like the silver of the mundane world but some kind of rare and precious metal. Shao Chen raised his hand and stretched out. Then he slowly unfolded the folded black cloaks. Without sending in his spiritual sense, he could move the secret treasure. However, if he wanted to bring the secret treasure out, he had to place a spiritual mark on it. After sizing up the appearance of the black cloak, Shao Chen rather liked it. It gave off a desolate and cold feeling. Then, Shao Chen took out the jade strip from the chest. His expression turned grave. The information in it was rather simple. It only said that this black cloak was called Tian Hai. Such simple information made Shao Chen hesitate. He did not know how to choose. His intuition told him that this cloak should be extraordinary. However, his rationality told him that the risk was not worth taking. The secret treasures that he had chosen earlier were much more reliable than this. Tian Hai. Shao Chen muttered the name a few times, trying to figure out the effects of this cloak from its name. However, he still could not make heads or tails of it. Let's choose this one. This cloak was made of at least 23 superior materials. The feathers on the shoulder pads should not be for decoration. At the very least, it should be able to increase your speed. When Ao Jiao saw that Shao Chen could not make up his mind, she helped him analyze it. All right, I'll listen to you. Shao Chen nodded. He stretched out his hand and put on the cloak. After that, he placed his own brand on it. Before he could even experience its effects, he was teleported away by an invisible force. His field of vision suddenly opened up. Xiao Chen floated to the ground and looked around. He discovered that he had returned to the outside world. However, the situation seemed a little off. Outside the Sage Mark Monument, the cultivators discussed why Xiao Chen had not come out yet. This was especially so for the cultivators of the Ghost race and Corpse race. They even started cursing. Xiao Chen had tricked these two races too badly. Most of them had not even reached the treasury hall before they were sent out. This was especially so for Wei Hua. Right now, he was thinking of how to get back a huge sum of money from Xiao Chen. 500,000 black astral coins was not a small sum. If not for his ancestor holding a high position in the Corpse God Palace, he would not have been able to afford it. If not for Wei Hua's ancestor holding a high position in the Corpse God Palace, he would have been the Underworld Fire Sovereign, one of the 4 great Corpse monarchs. Wei Hua even felt like jumping into a river. The Corpse race and Ghost race cultivators stared at the Sage Mark Monument with fiery gazes. The moment they waited for Xiao Chen to come out, they would immediately surround him and attack him, not caring about morality or justice. Even if they could not kill Xiao Chen in front of everyone, they would at least beat him up and take back all the benefits he had obtained, destroying his reputation. Di Wuk was in a pretty good mood. However, when he thought about how Xiao Chen had used his words to slap him in the face before the Sage Mark Monument and sent him flying with a kick, he could not help feeling angry. No matter how much self-restraint she had, she could not help getting angry, waiting for Xiao Chen to come out. If he could not vent this anger in his heart, it would be unbearable. Today, Xiao Chen's reputation would fall and he would be taught a lesson. Di Wuk's gaze was as sharp as a sword as he stared at the Sage Mark Monument, not saying a word. Xiao Chen felt that something was wrong with the situation. The reason was not that these people hated him to the bone or that undisguised killing intent. Instead, it was that even though he had already come out, these people did not seem to notice him, still staring at the Sage Mark Monument. After thinking about it, Xiao Chen concluded that the problem should be with the activated Heavenly Sea cloak that he wore. Heavenly Sea. Xiao Chen suddenly understood the meaning of these 2 words. What else could it be other than deceiving everyone? Even with Di Wuk's mental energy, he could not sense Xiao Chen's presence. Xiao Chen's heart could not help but pound wildly. It looked like he had made the right choice. Chapter 843. They hated him to the core and were waiting for him to come out so that they could swarm him and beat him to death without a care for the consequences. Xiao Chen's lips could not help but curl up in a smile. With the Heavenly Sea cloak, it looked like he did not need to use the backup plans that he had prepared. Those backup plans were rather troublesome and might not be able to completely hide from this group of people. It's great now. Just you wait. Even if you wait to the end of the world, you will not see me come out. However, I will not let you vent your frustrations. The next time they met, as long as it was not such a grand scene, Xiao Chen was confident of leaving easily. Xiao Chen did not know how long the Heavenly Sea Cloak's ability to deceive everyone would last. He felt his Heavenly Sage laws depleting quickly. This was not a good place to linger. After glancing at Ying Qiong and his first senior sister, Xiao Chen sent a voice projection to each of them. He told his first senior sister that he was safe so that she would not worry about him. Then, he arranged to meet with Ying Qiong 3 days later to discuss some matters. Without waiting for the two to reply, Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and left this place with a calm expression. The group of people in front of the Sage Mark Monument continued to wait bitterly. They kept imagining how they would teach Xiao Chen a lesson after he came out. 1 hour later, Xiao Chen was already far from the Kunlun mountain range. As he flew quickly in the air, the feathers on his shoulders slowly unfurled, forming 2 exquisite wings. Each wing created a long trail of air, raising his speed by about 20%. Xiao Chen fiddled with the wings and discovered that he could control the direction of the 2 wings. With a thought, he immediately adjusted his direction. This discovery delighted Xiao Chen. The speed at which he adjusted his direction was several times faster than before. If he could familiarize himself with it, it would be very beneficial in battle. The cry of a goshawk came from ahead. Xiaochen wanted to test out the Sky Sea Cloak's abilities. As he looked at the goshawk, a faint killing intent rose in his eyes. All of a sudden, the goshawk shrieked and flapped its wings to fly back in a hurry. It flapped its wings so fast that some of its feathers fell. Xiaochen frowned and couldn't help but stop. Had he been discovered? It seemed like the ability to deceive everyone would lose its effect once killing intent was revealed. The excitement in his heart slowly calmed down. Xiaochen entered deep thought. He had to find a time to figure out the flaws in his plan to deceive everyone. Otherwise, he would be in deep trouble at the critical moment. As the sky darkened, Xiaochen changed out of the Sky Sea Cloak and put on a normal cloak. He then arrived at a city controlled by the Ying family. The Sky Sea Cloak was too dazzling. After a while, she opened her bright eyes and said, "I am very clear about the value of the lunar cassia flowers. There is no need to say more. You want to sell these lunar cassia flowers, right? 10 lunar cassia flowers can be sold for a good price. However, it is not a price that will move you. You should keep them for yourself." At this point, Ying Qiong suddenly stopped. A strange expression appeared on her face. She looked at Xiaochen and said, "Don't tell me you still have a large number of lunar cassia flowers? Otherwise, you would not have called me over alone." Xiaochen was startled in his heart. This woman was indeed very intelligent. With just a little thought, she had already guessed the situation. More or less. "I have a large number of lunar cassia flowers that I need you to sell. However, you need to ensure that my identity does not leak out. I can give you these 10 lunar cassia flowers as compensation." Ying Qiong smiled faintly and stretched out her hand, not standing on ceremony as she accepted the 10 lunar cassia flowers. She said, "This is simple. The Flourishing Heaven Pavilion in Leisure Feather City will be holding a large auction soon. At that time, all sorts of people will be there. Given my position there, I can help you get rid of a large number of lunar cassia flowers without anyone noticing." Leisure Feather City was one of the 3 largest cities in the Profound Domain. Cultivators of the various races gathered there. There were countless experts in the city. If there was an auction there, there would definitely be a lot of good things. Xiaochen felt excited. Right now, he was quite wealthy. There were many things that he wanted to buy and was qualified to participate in the auction of that level. Suddenly, Xiaochen thought of something. He said, "I recall that the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion is a business of your Ying clan, right?" Ying Qiong denied it. "No, it is a joint business of the sovereign noble clans of the various races. In name, it is managed by an emperor venerate. However, in reality, 12 holy venerates manage the daily affairs. Below the holy venerates are 36 heavenly venerates. Below them are the great venerates of the various branches. I am one of the 36 heavenly venerates. The authority I can use is rather large. There is no problem in helping you. However, how many lunar cassia flowers do you want to sell?" Xiaochen thought for a while before replying calmly, "About 500. Ying Qiong sucked in a breath of cold air. He looked at Xiaochen incredulously and said, 500? Did I hear wrongly? Don't tell me you found a laurel tree that had just bloomed?" When the lunar cassia tree bloomed, white flowers would fill the treetops. However, when the wind blew, the flowers would fall off easily. In less than 30 days, all the lunar cassia flowers would be gone. This was another reason why lunar cassia flowers were so rare. 500 lunar cassia flowers would cost tens of millions of astral coins. This was not a small number. If the number were not too large, Xiaochen would not have sought Ying Qiong's help. How could several dozen lunar cassia flowers attract any attention? The lunar cassia tree was a treasure trove. It bloomed only once every 500 years. If it were not so valuable, Xiaochen would not have taken the risk to scam the ghost race and the corpse race. Ying Qiong recovered his wits and smiled bitterly. "It looks like your harvest in the Sage Mark Monument is no worse than Dewuck's. I have to think carefully about the faction that can buy 500 lunar cassia flowers in one go." "Is it very difficult?" Xiaochen asked with a frown. Ying Qiong said after some thought, "It is not difficult to sell them. However, if you sell so many lunar cassia flowers at the same time, the other party will definitely lower the price. I have to help you think about it carefully. Otherwise, you will suffer a huge loss. Just wait for my news. After Ing Qiong left, Ao Jiao asked in confusion, Xiaochen, why are you in such a rush to sell the lunar cassia flowers? You already have tens of millions of astral coins now. You do not lack money. Xiaochen put down the wine cup in his hand and explained, the cost of teleporting from the Kunlun realm to the Sky Dome realm is astronomical. I definitely have to bear the cost myself. Furthermore, after returning to the Sky Dome realm, I intend to stay there for a long time before leaving. I need to prepare sufficient cultivation resources. When Ao Jiao heard Xiaochen's explanation, she did not say anything more. However, she still reminded him, you just advanced to Martial Sage, and you want to return? The Sky Dome realm is not like the Kunlun realm. Your cultivation speed will definitely slow down. Now is the time for the younger generation to put in effort. It was not easy for you to catch up to them at the starting line. In the past, Xiaochen's cultivation had always lagged behind his peers. He had been chasing after them bitterly. Now that he had reached the new starting line of Martial Sage, he finally stood at the same starting line and charged into the Martial Emperor's Dao together. If Xiaochen gave up on this opportunity to advance at the same time, he would have to spend a lot of effort to catch up. Xiaochen stood up and walked out of the booth. He said, don't worry. Since I already decided to return, naturally, I have already considered everything clearly. I'm just reminding you, not worrying about you. Don't overthink. Xiaochen smiled and did not say anything. Inside the room of the inn, Xiaochen cultivated calmly, consolidating the foundation that he had just advanced to Martial Sage and familiarizing himself with the various changes that came with advancing to Martial Sage. Xiaochen, who was in a leisurely mood, did not know that the rumors about him in the outside world had already caused a huge commotion. 10 days had already passed. The ghost race, corpse race, and deity race cultivators waited for 3 days. However, they still did not see Xiaochen appear. Their patience had worn thin. With nowhere to vent their frustrations, one could easily imagine how depressed these people were. However, most of them were worried about why Xiaochen did not come out of the Sage Mark Monument. Since ancient times, no one had ever heard of someone not appearing in the Sage Mark Monument. Chapter 844. The moment the Qing Emperor's descendant appeared, he was trapped in the Sage Mark Monument. There were all sorts of rumors flying around. The most exaggerated one was that Xiaochen had already fallen in there. However, this version was the most widespread. Occasionally, when Xiaochen ate at an inn, he heard others talking about this. He could not help but find it laughable. Half a month later, Ing Qiong appeared before Xiaochen, somewhat fatigued. When he saw Xiaochen's complexion and aura becoming more stable, he could not help but feel that Xiaochen's improvement was really fast. I contacted the buyer. The buyer is the Kunlun realm's alchemy holy land, the Medicine God Valley. 500 lunar cassia flowers are valued at 25 million astral coins. The main reason is that the quantity is too large, enough for them to use for 10 years. Xiaochen calculated in his heart. Then he raised his head and said, this is a very fair price. You must have put in a lot of effort. When are we going to make the transaction? 10 days from now, at Leisure Feather City. We have to depart now. A warm look flashed in Ing Qiong's eyes. He continued, the elder in charge of the transaction would like to meet you. Of course, I did not reveal your identity. Xiaochen decisively rejected, never mind. I am not interested in these people. Only Xiaochen dared to reject the Medicine God Valley's alchemy grandmaster. The Medicine God Valley was not strong, but they had connections with the various experts of the Kunlun realm. Even martial emperors could not guarantee that they would not need the Medicine God Valley's help when they needed it. They would have to ask the Medicine God Valley for some medicinal pills refining fees. Ing Qiong did not find this strange. This was not his first day knowing Xiaochen. He said, all right, I'll help you reject him. Leisure Feather City towered in the sky. Aside from the main city, there were 5 satellite cities connected by rainbow bridges. Many people came and went in the sky. The city was vast and majestic, looking very prosperous. Cultivators of the various races gathered in the main city. Experts of the deity race, corpse race, ghost race, human race, and fiend race could be seen everywhere. This was especially so because of the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion's auction. Martial sage experts could be seen everywhere in the city. The threshold for this auction was extremely high. Without being a martial sage, one would not be allowed to enter. This was the auction with the highest standards in the continent. If Xiao Chun wanted to find an auction of a higher standard than this, he could only search the boundless starry heavens. Grandmaster-level martial sage auctions were common there. Because it was necessary to be cautious, Xiao Chun put on the sky sea cloak, and he did not stand out in the crowd. There were many true inheritors of the noble clans and sects here. A secret treasure that looked dazzling would not attract too much attention when compared to the many king-grade secret treasures of the noble clans and sections. After Ying Qiong helped Xiao Chun trade for the lunar osmanthus flower, he used his heavenly venerate status to easily arrange a VIP room for Xiao Chun. Let's meet again after the auction. If I can obtain the position of Holy Venerate in the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion, my status as the Ying clan's successor will be stable. I still have some work to do, so I'll take my leave first. As the two old men took Ying Qiong away, Xiao Chun entered deep thought. This was the first time he felt the pressure of this girl. It was not easy to obtain the position of Holy Venerate from the 36 Heavenly Venerates. Furthermore, Xiao Chun still had to deal with the overt and covert attacks of the clan. The power struggle of a large clan was truly chilling. Just as Xiao Chun stepped into the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion, a few gazes that he did not sense slowly left his back. Is it him? It is him. On the way here, Ying Qiong did not have a second person accompanying him. Good. 500 lunar osmanthus flowers in one go. He definitely has a mature lunar osmanthus tree. Perhaps he also has a peak-grade immortal spirit ring on him. Otherwise, he would not be able to make the lunar osmanthus tree mature. The VIP room was luxuriously decorated, dazzling with gold and jade. However, it did not look tacky at all. Xiao Chun carefully looked around and discovered that the sparkling decorations were not the gold, agate, or jadeite of the mundane world. Instead, they were other rare metals, each of which was very expensive. They added a sense of weight to the room, diluting the tackiness of the extravagance. The exquisite wooden chair was covered in the soft fur of a superior-grade spirit beast. When Xiao Chun sat on it, he felt very comfortable. He could not help leaning back. Spirit fruits unique to the Kunlun Mountain were placed on the ebony tables and chairs at the side. A faint fragrance came from them, making one drool. From the details, one could see the difference between this auction and the previous auctions. A light flickered on the wall in front, and the scene on the auction platform turned into a water screen before Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun felt surprised. This should be a formation laid by Emperor Wu, who cultivated a water-attributed cultivation technique. To them, this was just a small trick. A spirited old man walked up the auction platform. His hair and eyebrows were all white, and his eyes gleamed with vigor. As he walked, he exuded a calm aura. Xiao Chun was mildly startled. This was actually a superior-grade martial sage. Furthermore, his cultivation was very deep. This old man's family name is Hong. I am the MC of the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion's auction this time. Everyone here is a reputable person. Everyone here knows the rules of the auction. If there are any disputes, please resolve them outside the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion. Even without this old man saying it, you all know the consequences of those who maliciously disrupt the order of the auction. After old Hong finished speaking, he did not bother with any nonsense and directly revealed the first auction item. The first auction item is a peak sage grade medicinal pill, the Rising Dragon Overlord Pill. It contains the bones of 18 different inferior dragons, refined by a Grandmaster alchemist of the Medicine God Valley. After consuming it, it can increase a cultivator's aura by 30%. If one is lucky, it might even produce a trace of dragon might. After giving a simple introduction of the medicinal pill's effects, old Hong announced the starting bid. The starting bid is 180,000 astral coins. Each increment must be no less than 20,000 astral coins. Xiao Chun raised his eyebrows. Auctioning off a peak sage-grade medicinal pill at the start was really bold. Medicinal pills were normally divided into 9 ranks. Above rank 9 was sage grade, and above sage grade was king grade. Above king grade were emperor grade medicinal pills. As for whether there were teleportation immortal pills above emperor grade, Xiaochen did not know. The rising dragon overlord pill was second only to king grade medicinal pills. In a regular auction, it would not be strange for it to be used as the finale item. Unexpectedly, it was only an opening item here. Xiaochen was very interested in this medicinal pill. He had consumed the monarch bloodgrass before. His bloodline already contained a trace of an ancient sovereign's aura. If he consumed this rising dragon overlord pill, that arrogant and unparalleled sovereign's aura would be even stronger. 200,000. 200,000. 300,000. The effect of aura on cultivators went without saying. Ordinary rank 9 medicinal pills that could increase a cultivator's aura would be bought by many. As a peak sage grade medicinal pill, the rising dragon overlord pill would naturally be hotly contested by cultivators. After selling 500 lunar cassia flowers, Xiaochen's net worth reached more than 35 million astral coins. He was no less wealthy than a grandmaster-level martial sage. Xiaochen was determined to obtain this medicinal pill. However, this place was filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. He could not appear to be unparalleled and attract attention. When the bid reached 500,000 astral coins, Xiaochen started to raise the bid unhurriedly. He did not increase it by too much or too little, just keeping it up like this. When the bid reached 1,500,000 astral coins, only one person remained competing with him. Xiaochen tested the waters a few times and discovered that only one person followed. So, he suddenly raised the bid by 500,000 astral coins. That martial sage, who had been following Xiaochen for 20,000 astral coins, immediately stopped following. In the end, Xiaochen managed to obtain this rising dragon overlord pill for 2,200,000 astral coins. After several auctions, Xiaochen had gained some experience. If one were to use a sky-high price to scare everyone away, not only would the auctioneer not agree to it, those who weren't interested in the item would also turn their attention to it. Perhaps, they might even argue with the auctioneer about it. Xiaochen could only slowly grind it down until he was certain that there were not many people competing and that he knew the bottom line of the bidders. Only then could he kill it in one strike and obtain what he wanted. Of course, nothing was absolute. This was just a general technique, it was not a law. Soon, a maidservant brought out the rising dragon overlord pill. Xiaochen paid the bill straightforwardly. Then he held the jade bottle containing the medicinal pill in his hand. After pouring out the medicinal pill, Xiaochen took a look at the second auction item. He was not interested, so he swallowed the medicinal pill and used this rather boring time to refine it. Boom! The medicinal pill melted the moment it entered Xiaochen's mouth. Then, it split into 18 dragon-shaped energies that rampaged wildly in Xiaochen's body. Instantly, there seemed to be a tsunami surging endlessly in Xiaochen's body. As he slowly refined the medicinal energy, Xiaochen clearly felt the sovereign's aura in his bloodline grow denser, gaining the sharpness of an absolute overlord. Xiaochen clenched his fists and activated his sovereign's bloodline. A surging tyrannical aura surged out, and there seemed to be 18 berserk dragon roars reverberating in the air. The light in Xiaochen's eyes disappeared. He closed his eyes and sensed for a while. He gained a new understanding of the sovereign's aura that was originally unfathomable. With Xiaochen's current aura, he should be able to hold his own against grandmaster-level martial sages. He would not be suppressed by the other party's aura before the fight even started. Ao Jiao thought to herself, only Xiaochen can have such an effect. Without the accumulation of a sovereign's bloodline, others would not have such startling improvements in their auras. An inferior-grade martial sage could fight against a grandmaster-level martial sage with his aura. How shocking would that be? The auction continued. Occasionally, Xiaochen glanced at the items. Sometimes, he even bought things that he had no use for. This made Ao Jiao feel strange. No matter how rich Xiaochen was, he could not spend it like this. Xiao Chen smiled faintly but did not explain. When he returned, he had to bring something to take care of some old friends. Clearly, he could not return empty-handed. There were many good things in the auction. After Xiao Chen, he managed to win 2 more secret treasures that he was rather satisfied with. One was a pair of jade-white absolute heaven gloves, a high-quality sage-grade secret treasure that could increase one's speed by 20%. The other was a pair of boots that could increase one's speed. Compared to the pair of gloves and boots in the treasury hall, these were slightly inferior. However, they were sufficient. At the very least, their effects would not weaken before he advanced to Grandmaster level Martial Sage. Chapter 845. There were many good things. However, not many of them made Xiao Chen's eyes light up. Occasionally, there were treasures that shone brightly, but they were of no use to Xiao Chen. Even if he managed to obtain them, he could only waste them. Xiao Chen could not help feeling bored again. He asked, "Ao Jiao, the dragon mark fruits in the immortal spirit ring have reached 700 years of age, right?" "Yes, they have reached that long ago. If I consume the last 10 odd rank 3 spirit veins, I should have no problem reaching 800 years of age in 1 month." Xiao Chen thought for a while before saying, "Never mind. I'll take them out now. Keep the remaining spirit veins origins. I have other uses for them." Although Ao Jiao did not understand, she still did as he said. She flicked her finger, and 5 dragon mark fruits with alluring spirituality floated out. Xiao Chen placed the dragon mark fruits beside him. Right now, a casual strike of his could bring his vital qi to 1,150 tons of force. His explosive power could reach 1,180 tons of force, but he was still far from reaching 1,500 tons of force. After he consumed all 5 800-year-old dragon mark fruits, his explosive power should be close to 1,500 tons of force. The next item to be auctioned is a king-grade secret treasure. This secret treasure was originally an ancient warship from the immortal epic, the Blessed Light Ship. After the Qing Emperor modified it, it became the standard king-grade warship of the Dragon's Gate. After the Dragon's Gate was destroyed, most of the Blessed Light ships were destroyed. This is one of the few that survived. I do not need to explain its significance. The Dragon's Gate's warship starts at 2 million astral coins. Old Hong's words on the auction platform immediately made Xiao Chen, who was preparing to consume the dragon mark fruits, stop what he was doing. Then he stared at the simple, exquisite, yet tyrannical warship. 2,100,000. 2,200,000. 2,300,000. As soon as the starting price was announced, many fervent bidders immediately surged out from all directions, and every single bid was an increment of 100,000, causing them to seem extremely frenzied. The Blessed Light Ship formed the Dragon's Gate's fleet. It had once followed the Qing Emperor and swept through the world, becoming unrivaled in the starry heavens. In the battles with the demons, it had created countless glory. It was the only King-class warship that was comparable to an Emperor-class warship and could be mass-produced. Its combat power was far superior to other King-class warships of the same kind. Aside from the Emperor-grade warship, no other warship could compare to it. Be it speed, firepower, or the level of formation runes inscribed, they were all incomparable. Unfortunately, in the final battle of the Sky Dome realm, the unrivaled fleet was completely destroyed. The Qing Emperor also died and left the Kunlun realm. When the Dragon's Gate was at its peak, its headquarters were destroyed. In an instant, the Dragon's Gate collapsed. If not for the fact that there were still some peak major characters who had a good relationship with the Qing Emperor, it would have been a problem for the Shao clan's direct bloodline to continue. The blueprints for the Brahmin ship of Radiance had disappeared a long time ago. It was truly not easy to find such a ship. The major figures of the various sects were all competing with each other in the hopes that they would be able to replicate it. If they could, then the strength of their sects would definitely increase qualitatively. Only king-grade warships could travel freely in the starry heavens. Such a Dragon's Gate's warship could rival a Grandmaster-level Martial Sage. The price soared rapidly. Soon, it reached 5 million astral coins. However, there was still an endless stream of people bidding. The bustling scene did not diminish at all. A fanatical flame appeared in Xiao Chen's eyes. No matter what, I have to buy this Brahmin ship of radiance. I have to buy it. Xiao Chen clenched his right fist tightly. However, he thought rationally and did not rush to make a bid. 10 million astral coins. It was unknown who the honored guest in VIP room 7 was, but he called out 10 million astral coins in one go, immediately scaring off several martial sages who followed suit. Only 5 or 6 people with the ability to compete remained. Xiao Chen did not make a move, continuing to observe the situation unhurriedly. When the price continued to soar to 15 million astral coins, only 2 people remained bidding. 15 million astral coins already surpassed the value of a king-grade secret treasure. If not for the Qing Emperor's glorious deeds in the Dragon's Gate and the military merits of the Dragon's Gate's warship, 10 million astral coins would already be an astronomical price. When the price was finally set at 16 million star coins, one of the 2 remaining people could not continue and had no choice but to withdraw with regret. Old Hong revealed a satisfied expression. 16 million astral coins was more or less the price he expected. He could finally strike the gavel and close the deal. 20 million astral coins? Just as Old Hong was about to speak, Xiao Chen, who was in VIP room 7, calmly called out his own bid. The entire place fell silent. The 3 old men in VIP room 10 were slightly stunned. One of them, a white-clad old man, flew into a rage. He had spent so much effort to pay 16 million astral coins. How could he have expected to be instantly outbid at the crucial moment? The 2 old men on the left and right said, "Old Bai, don't be anxious. The 2 of us still have some astral coins on us. It should be enough to help you obtain this warship." The white-clad old man thought quickly, and a sinister expression appeared on his face. He said, "There's no need. It is not worth it to pay more astral coins. I have my own ways." 20 million astral coins going thrice. This Dragon's Gate's warship, the Blessed Light ship, goes to the distinguished guest in VIP room 28. Old Hong was slightly stunned. Then he beamed and closed the deal. Inside the VIP room, Xiao Chen smiled faintly. Then he picked up a dragon mark fruit and placed it in his mouth. As he refined the medicinal energy of the dragon mark fruit and nourished his vital qi, he quietly waited for the maidservant to bring up the Dragon's Gate's warship. After refining the 5 dragon mark fruits, Xiao Chen's entire body surged with heat. His vital qi surged like a great river, giving him an inexhaustible supply of vital qi. The glove on his right hand flickered with a jade-white luster. Half of the 5 fingers were exposed. Then, Xiao Chen clenched his fist. The crackling of his bones sounded like small claps of thunder, resounding continuously in this average-sized VIP room. A strong wind formed by the surging energy surged wildly in the room. However, under Xiao Chen's control, the wind did not break anything. The exquisite paintings and the paintings on the walls remained intact. Not only did Xiao Chen's vital qi increase, but his control over his strength had also improved. The finer details were even more extraordinary. The doors to the VIP room opened. A pretty maidservant carried out a jade plate and brought up the Blessed Light ship. The strong wind in the room immediately found an outlet. It immediately howled out like a berserk saber that could break a sharp blade. The pretty maidservant could not help but pale in fright. Under the cloak, Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He quickly opened his tightly clenched right hand, and the strong wind instantly scattered. Only the maiden's clothes and long hair fluttered in the wind. This esteemed guest, the Dragon's Gate's warship, the Blessed Light ship, has arrived. Please inspect it. The maidservant calmed herself and carefully walked over. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand, and the 1-meter-long Blessed Light ship flew over. When Xiao Chen looked carefully, he saw 18 sails on the ship, stacked together densely, occupying most of the ship's surface area. When Xiao Chen extended his spiritual sense, he discovered dense talisman scripts carved on each of the sails. When he scanned them with his spiritual sense, they gave off motes of light. Several blue dragon patterns hidden in the clouds were carved on the 2 sides of the ship, looking very realistic. The dragon's eyes looked ferocious, exuding might. The dragon mouth opened slightly, and Xiao Chen touched it. Then he closed his eyes and felt it. There was a complicated formation in the innermost part of the ship. There were 18 grooves in the formation. There should be astral cores or peak-grade spirit stones in them. However, they were empty, so the formation could not be activated. Xiao Chen opened his eyes, and the bow of the ship stood straight in front of him. Amid the boundless light, supreme Sanskrit chants rang out. The blue dragon carvings on the two sides of the ship seemed to come to life. A formless dragon roar resounded in Xiao Chen's mind. It is indeed the Dragon's Gate's warship. Furthermore, it is an intact warship. After Xiao Chen inspected the ship, he happily paid the bill. The maidservant smiled as she took out 18 inferior-grade astral cores. Then she said respectfully, "These 18 inferior-grade astral cores are a complimentary gift from our pavilion. There is also this golden VIP card. In the future, as long as you spend money in the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion, you will enjoy VIP treatment." Xiao Chen put away the golden VIP card and the astral cores. After thinking for a while, he said, "The Flourishing Heaven Pavilion should have superior-grade astral cores for sale, right?" The maidservant nodded and said, "Naturally we do. One superior-grade astral core costs 100,000 astral coins. However, superior-grade astral cores are one of the few treasures that are not discounted. Even an individual cannot buy more than 20 at a time. I hope this guest can understand." Superior-grade astral cores could only be obtained by hunting extremely high-ranked astral beasts. Not only was the risk high, but the efficiency was also low. Even in the starry heavens, they were extremely rare treasures, all the more so in the profound domain. Xiao Chen knew about this. He waved his hand and said, "It's fine. Just give me 20 superior-grade astral cores and 100 medial-grade astral cores." Just as the maidservant was about to leave, Xiao Chen suddenly called out, "Help me put this transaction on the Ghost Pavilion's heavenly venerate Ying Qiong. It is because of him that I am spending money in the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion." Xiao Chen guessed that there was a lot of competition between heavenly venerates. By doing this, he should be able to help the other party a little. The maidservant's expression changed slightly. She exclaimed, "So, it turns out that you are an honored guest brought in by a heavenly venerate. I apologize for my lack of manners. I will do as we agreed." 20 superior-grade astral cores and 100 medial-grade astral cores cost Xiao Chen close to 4 million astral coins. Now, the 35 million astral coins he had were less than 10 million. To prevent any changes, after the maidservant left, Xiao Chen started to place his spiritual mark on the Dragon's Gate's warship. When the spiritual mark was completely placed, the 1-meter-long warship paused for a moment and directly entered Xiao Chen's body, merging with his flesh and bones. After the king-grade secret treasure merged with his body, Xiao Chen's aura could not help but gain the weight of time, becoming as heavy as a mountain. Xiao Chen felt excited. He had not expected the Dragon's Gate's warship to have such an effect. When he subdued the reincarnation lamp in the past, there had not been such a huge change. Xiao Chen closed his eyes and remained silent. Then he sat cross-legged in the booth and started to slowly refine the Dragon's Gate's warship, getting the various formations and laws it contained to become more compatible with his body. However, Xiao Chen did not expect to completely refine the warship in one day and achieve 100% compatibility with his body. Chapter 846. If Xiao Chen wanted to completely refine a king-grade secret treasure, he still needed to raise his cultivation. He could not rush this. Soon, the maidservant returned with the astral core. Xiao Chen opened his eyes and thought for a while. Then, he prepared to leave this place immediately. There were many people eyeing this Dragon's Gate's warship. It was hard to guarantee that no one would make a move on him. After making his preparations, just as he was about to leave, Xiao Chen suddenly noticed the next auction item. It was an extremely rare saber monarch grass, which could improve a bladesman's saber intent. Xiao Chen immediately stopped. He decided to bid for this saber monarch grass before leaving. Little did he know, this decision in the blink of an eye prevented him from getting rid of some trouble. In booth 36, the white-clad old man that Xiaoqun used to instantly destroy the Dragon's Gate's warship held a 9-colored disc in his hand as he continuously formed hand seals. 9 different colored circles were spinning continuously on the round plate. Waves of mysterious energy were surging into the round plate non-stop. The white-clad old man's expression turned extremely grave. His eyebrows were deeply furrowed, looking like a large Chuan character. Kasi. Beams of light shot out from the disc, and a scene appeared on the disc. It showed the booth Xiaoqun was in. The scene showed a pretty maidservant bringing the astral core to Xiaoqun. Then, Xiaoqun put away the astral core and prepared to leave. Kasi. The old man stretched out his hand and pointed. The beams of light on the disc gathered and encased Xiaoqun. When the light faded, a green dot appeared on the disc, flickering continuously. The white-clad old man relaxed his frown and heaved a sigh of relief. He said, "All right, my heavenly secret divination disc has already planted a trace of heavenly secrets in him. Now, no matter where he runs, he will not be able to escape." The ferocious-looking old man on the left asked, "Why did it take so long? The heavenly secret divination disc? Could it be that the other party sensed that trace of heavenly secrets and took precautions?" The white-clad old man shook his head and said, "No, the cloak he is wearing is somewhat strange. It is ethereal and slippery like a fish. I spent a lot of effort to catch it." The old man on the right said, "This fellow has quite a few good things on him. I wonder which sect's old monster he is from." The 3 of them were inner sect elders of the Heaven and Earth sect. The Heaven and Earth sect did not have any race requirements. They were rather famous in the profound domain and had considerable power. However, they were only slightly weaker than some sects and clans with sovereign martial emperors. The white-clad old man exuded a scholarly aura, looking very righteous. He looked at the heavenly secret divination disc in his hand and sneered, "We are alone. Even the old monsters of other sects will die if they encounter the 3 of us." Inside the private room, Xiaoqun frowned slightly, feeling an inexplicable sense of irritation. He sent out his spiritual sense to check carefully. However, his expression remained unchanged as he continued to bid for the Saber Monarch herb. Bladesmen were a rather different group of cultivators. Xiaoqun did not have many competitors. He spent 2 million astral coins to successfully purchase this Saber Monarch grass. After Xiaoqun obtained the Saber Monarch grass from the maidservant, he did not linger and left this place in a rush. Although Xiaoqun did not sense anything with his spiritual sense, he kept feeling that something was wrong. After leaving the flourishing heaven pavilion, Xiaoqun looked around. Then he followed the crowd to the bustling streets, heading out of the city. Young Master Huang, that person left from the side door of the flourishing heaven pavilion. He left before the auction ended. In a restaurant across from the flourishing heaven pavilion, a youth in embroidered clothes listened to the reports of 2 of his subordinates. This youth was called Huang Bai. He was the son of one of the 3 grandmaster alchemists of the Medicine God Valley. His talent in alchemy was extraordinary as well. This time, Huang Bai had come with the elders of his sect to make a deal with Ying Qiong. He had sent people to investigate in secret and discovered that Xiaoqun was only an inferior-grade martial sage. Hence, he felt evil. Behind the elders of his sect, Huang Bai prepared to make a fortune, be it 25 million astral coins, a complete lunar kasha tree, or a peak-grade immortal spirit ring. Any one of these would be sufficient to tempt him. Huang Bai nodded and said to the 2 beside him, "He is only an inferior-grade martial sage. With the 2 of you being medial-grade martial sages, you should be more than enough to deal with him. Make your move after you leave the city. I will wait here for your good news." The 2 obeyed and left. They swallowed a medicinal pill, and their auras immediately vanished. With their mental energy, they found that their cultivation was no different from that of an ordinary person. This was the rarely seen aura-concealing pill. After consuming it, one could hide one's cultivation for 2 hours. Even if the target discovered it, they would not care. After leaving the city, Xiaoqun gently pushed off and landed on the ground in Leisure Feather City. After getting his bearings, he headed for the Tianwu Domain's Haotian sect. There were still many cultivators on the main road. Xiao Chen did not stop moving. However, the further he went, the more he deviated. This made the two cautiously following behind rejoice. If there were fewer people, they would be able to make their move immediately. Suddenly, the two were stunned. When they looked up, they discovered that Xiao Chen's figure had disappeared. Xiao Chen, who was clearly in front of them earlier, suddenly vanished. Whoosh, whoosh. The two no longer carefully hid themselves. They quickly flew over to where Xiao Chen had disappeared and looked around. Strange, why can't I see him? The two exchanged glances, feeling suspicious in their hearts. Are the two of you looking for me? Suddenly, a voice rang out behind them. The two's figures flashed as they quickly turned around. When they saw Xiao Chen wearing the heavenly sea cloak, who seemed to have appeared out of nowhere, they were extremely astonished. Under the cloak, Xiao Chen revealed a faint smile. His earlier actions and the aura he gave off had exposed the two's cultivation. Just two medial-grade martial sages wanted to target him? They were too naive. Xiao Chen's worries turned to nothing. Back in the booth, Xiao Chen had felt that something was wrong. However, he could not detect it. Only when he left the city and checked with his spiritual sense did he see these two ordinary people. Only then did he understand. It turned out that there were experts who had consumed medicinal pills to hide their cultivation and were following him. When the two medial-grade martial sages saw that they were exposed, they did not say anything more. Their auras burst forth, and a weapon appeared in each of their hands. Then, they pressed forward and charged at Xiao Chen. If it were when Xiao Chen had just advanced to martial sage, he would have felt some pressure when facing two medial-grade martial sages and would not have dared to attack rashly. However, now that he had not been a medial-grade martial sage for several decades, Xiao Chen would not fear regular medial-grade martial sages. He had too many trump cards he could use. After activating the sovereign bloodline in his body, the horrifying aura that Xiao Chen gained from the Rising Dragon Overlord pill surged out. In an instant, a formless dragon roar resounded behind him. As Xiao Chen's aura soared, the two medial-grade martial sages suddenly felt a huge pressure bearing down on them. It was like they were facing an ancient sovereign overlord and not some inferior-grade martial sage. When Xiao Chen attacked, openings instantly appeared in his moves. He took a step forward, and his aura was like a mountain pressing forward step by step. Vital chi surged in his right hand. Using his fastest speed, Xiao Chen grabbed hold of the two's openings and attacked. Bang! Two crisp sounds of bones breaking resounded. Xiao Chen punched the two medial-grade martial sages in the chest and sent them flying into the air. Blood leaked out of their mouths continuously. How can this be? We have rank 1 sage bodies. He shattered our ribs with a casual punch. As the two fell to the ground, they saw horror in each other's eyes. Xiao Chen was clearly only an inferior-grade martial sage, but the aura that he burst out with instantly suppressed them. His casual punch seemed to have more than 2 million kilograms of vital chi. This was simply horrifying. Xiao Chen did not give the two any time to think. He pushed off the ground again, and the two wings on his shoulders moved in different trajectories in the air. He moved so fast that only a blurry afterimage and 2 long afterimages could be seen. All the vital chi in Xiao Chen's body surged like a flood, surging endlessly. With a casual punch, he could achieve 1,600,000 kilograms of force. Occasionally, he would explode with a force that could approach 1,500,000 kilograms of force. The sound of his fists tearing through space was like a clap of thunder in the two's ears, causing their ears to buzz. The ripples in the air even affected the two's movements. Fighting 1 against 2, Xiao Chen held the absolute upper hand. The two could not see Xiao Chen's movements clearly. They could only see 2 undulating streams of energy spinning in the air. Xiao Chen turned into many afterimages. As he attacked, his fists flickered, forcing the two back several times. In less than 100 moves, Xiao Chen severely injured these two and made them vomit blood. They became incredibly weak and fell to the ground, unable to get up again. Xiao Chen stopped moving, and all the afterimages slowly vanished, revealing his true body. He said coldly, "With your insignificant cultivation, you dare to target my Dragon's Gate's warship? I really don't know how to evaluate you." What Dragon's Gates worship? We are the Medicine God Valley's people. You'd best let us go. Otherwise, with the Medicine God Valley's connections, there will be no place for you in this world. The two people on the ground spoke intermittently, trying to use the Medicine God Valley's position to pressure Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen heard this, his expression changed drastically. However, it was not because of the Medicine God Valley but because they did not know about the Dragon's Gate's worship. In that case, the strong enemy that made Xiao Chen feel strangely frustrated was someone else. Unexpectedly, the one who won the Dragon's Gate's worship alone is actually a little friend. A voice resounded in the air. Xiao Chen looked up and saw a white-clad old man slowly descending from the sky. He looked around and saw two other old men in two other directions, sealing off his escape routes. Xiao Chen checked the cultivation of the three old men, and his heart immediately sank. Unexpectedly, all of them were bona fide superior-grade martial sages. The white-clad old man looked at Xiao Chen and said sullenly, "Hand over the Dragon's Gate's worship and the cloak you are wearing, and I can spare your life." Xiao Chen carefully sized up the white-clad old man in front. Then, he glanced at the two old men in the other two directions. One of them looked ferocious and wore black robes. He had an indistinct, sinister smile on his face. The other wore green robes and had a skinny face with a small goatee. Xiao Chen committed the appearances of the three to memory and evaluated their strengths. Then he came up with a rough countermeasure. Chapter 847. Xiao Chen raised his head and looked calmly at the other party. Then, he grasped something with his right hand and said, "Sir, have you heard of this saying before? It is better to bully an old man than to offend a young man. The river flows east for 30 years, then west for 30 years. Today, you rely on your age and cultivation to suppress me with numbers. Have you ever thought about your future?" The expressions of the three old men could not help but freeze. Unexpectedly, after Xiao Chen saw the three of them, he did not panic. Instead, he remained strangely calm and said such words. The white-clad old man snorted coldly and said, "Junior, you overestimate yourself. You might scare most people. This old man is an inner sect elder of the Heaven and Earth sect. Emperor Wu is in the sect. Even if you become Emperor Wu in the future, what can you do to me? Cut the crap. Hand over the Dragon's Gate's worship and your cloak, and I'll let you live. Otherwise, you can forget about leaving today." Xiao Chen's gaze turned cold. He raised his head and said, "In that case, I will stand here. Let's see how you will not let me live." Xiao Chen's aura clashed fearlessly. The aura of an overlord allowed Xiao Chen to fight one against three without any pressure. The clash of auras created intense shockwaves that howled endlessly in the air. The wind howled deafeningly. When the white-clad old man saw the fearless Xiao Chen's sharpness, he felt bewildered. He did not know what gave Xiao Chen the confidence to remain so calm at this moment. "You are just bluffing. You're just bluffing. Let's see how long you can keep up the act." The white-clad old man steeled himself. He did not think that with three superior-grade martial sages here, they could not do anything to an insignificant inferior-grade martial sage. That would be a huge joke. The white-clad old man's figure wavered, and two beams of light, one black and one white, flickered around him. Then he charged at Xiao Chen as fast as a meteor. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and released his tightly clenched right hand. Many superior-grade astral cores gave off dazzling light like flowers scattering in the sky, encasing him. Bang! The 20 superior-grade astral cores gave off a bright light. When Xiao Chen infused his energy into them, they exploded. The energy contained in one inferior-grade astral core could injure an inferior-grade martial sage. The might of 50 superior-grade astral cores exploding together was easy to imagine. Intense explosions blended together, shaking heaven and earth as surging shock waves swept out. The white-robed old man, who was charging forward at an extremely fast speed, was simply unable to dodge and was directly hit by the explosion. The white-robed old man came quickly and left even faster. His clothes were completely blown away, leaving behind only a saint-grade inner armor. His hair was in a mess and his skin was a bloody mess. It was an extremely horrifying sight. His scholarly temperament was completely gone. A second ago, he was still in high spirits, but in the next second, he was in a sorry state. Although his internal and external injuries were not fatal, his combat power was reduced by at least 50% in a short period of time. The other two old men were greatly startled. Clearly, they had not expected Xiao Chen to consume such a precious superior-grade astral core in one go. And it wasn't just one or two, it was a total of 20. Whoosh! A light flashed. Right after the explosion ended, an electric light appeared under Xiao Chen's feet. His figure shot forward, and he kicked the white-robed old man, who had just landed, back 1 kilometer. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen sent a bona fide superior-grade martial sage flying with a casual kick. After him, the two old men reacted and casually summoned out a spirit beast. Then, they carried the white-robed old man in the direction that Xiao Chen had taken, giving chase. The white-robed old man coughed intensely a few times. Then he changed into a new set of clothes. After recuperating for a long time, his injured face recovered somewhat. "Old Bai, are you all right?" the ferocious-looking black-robed old man could not help asking. The might of 20 superior-grade astral cores exploding struck the black-robed old man. Just thinking about it made him tremble in fear. Fortunately, Old Bai wore a peak sage-grade defensive inner armor. Furthermore, Old Bai's physical body was already a rank 2 sage body. Not to mention anyone else, even if it were the black-robed old man, it would be pretty good if he could still breathe. Old Bai's expression turned sullen. He did not answer the old man's question. Instead, he took out the heavenly secret divination disc and looked at it. Then he raised his head and said, "Turn around. This brat is really crafty." Unexpectedly, he circled around behind us. If I didn't have the heavenly secret divination plate, I would have really let that guy slip away. The green-robed old man controlling the spirit beast waved his hand, and the huge bird he sat on spread its wings. A strong wind blew, scattering the white clouds. Then, the bird sped towards the spot of light on the heavenly secret divination disc. This bird was called the White Rock. It possessed the bloodline of the legendary Kuan Peng and could fly very fast. In the entire heaven and earth sect, there were only 2 of them, 1 male and 1 female. Xiao Chen executed the Thunder Dragon steps to its limits. Using the heavenly sea cloak speed, he managed to leave the 3 far behind several times. However, when he slowed down, the other party immediately caught up. This was extremely strange. Xiao Chen carefully checked his body and did not find anything that had been tampered with. Left with no choice, he asked Ao Jiao, "Ao Jiao, are there any secret treasures that can figure out the position of others or leave a mark on you that you cannot shake off?" Ao Jiao quickly answered, "There are many. I know a few. The divine calculation and manipulation, the ask-not mirror, the 8 trigrams derivation diagram, the heavenly secret divination disc." Xiao Chen could not help but stop. When he saw the black spot appear behind him again, he could not help but frown. He said, "It looks like I really fell for it. No wonder I felt something was wrong at the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion. Actually, there is no need to worry. You have the Haotian Martial Emperors will clone. You can instantly kill these people," Ao Jiao said without much concern. Xiao Chen shook his head and said, "I can't. I can only use the Martial Emperors will clone in desperate situations. Right now, I am still far from it. They are just superior-grade martial sages. I already used 20 superior-grade astral cores. How can I waste the will clone? What do you plan to do then? There is no way to run." "That might not be the case." Xiao Chen looked up at the clear sky and summoned out the Dragon's Gate's warship, making it quickly grow larger. He said, "Let's go to the starry heavens and head directly to the Haotian star. I don't believe that 3 superior-grade martial sages will dare to go through the barrier of the sky with me." Xiao Chen gently leaped up and landed on the deck of the Dragon's Gate's warship. Then, he quickly went into the hold and placed 18 inferior-grade astral cores in the grooves of the formation. A light flickered, and the entire warship immediately came to life. It was like a huge, sleeping dragon awakening from a dream, filled with boundless energy. With his spiritual sense, Xiao Chun could feel every part of the warship. It was like this warship was his incarnation. With a thought, he could control it as he pleased. Unfortunately, he had only refined it for one day and could not bring out much of its combat prowess. Otherwise, with this warship, Xiao Chun would be able to easily kill off the pursuers. Xiao Chun appeared on the deck and controlled the warship to fly up continuously 10 kilometers to 20 kilometers, heading for the formless barrier of the sky. Oh no, this fellow is going to use the Dragon's Gate's warship to go through the barrier of the sky. The ferocious-looking old man on the white rock said with an unsightly expression. It looked like Xiao Chun was about to catch up, but he soared higher and higher. Without a king-grade warship, one would have to be a grandmaster-level martial sage to break through the barrier of the sky. The white-robed old man, who held the heavenly secret divination disc in his hand, showed an uncertain expression. As he watched the Dragon's Gate's warship slowly break through the barrier of the sky, he showed a conflicted expression. The three bona fide superior-grade martial sages personally made a move. In the end, not only did they fail to catch up to Xiao Chun, but they even got tricked by him. Without half a year of recuperation, they would not be able to recover to their peak. I planted a strand of the heavens in him. I don't believe that he will never return to the Kunlun realm, the white-robed old man said hatefully when he saw that he could no longer catch up to Xiao Chun. The Dragon's Gate's warship passed through the barrier of the sky. When the white-robed old man saw that he could no longer catch up to Xiao Chun, he could not help but say this hatefully. A faint azure barrier encased the Dragon's Gate's warship, preventing the chaotic flows of space in the starry heavens from invading. Chapter 848. As Xiao Chun stood on the deck, he turned his head back and glanced at the formless barrier of the sky. He felt startled. He wondered where the immortal epic got such a grand feat to create such a huge barrier, surrounding the entire Kunlun realm. What kind of enemies were they dealing with? Could it be just astral beasts? When Xiao Chun thought about it, that should not be possible. The highest-ranked astral beast, the Destroyer, was only slightly stronger than a sovereign martial emperor. During the immortal epic, those powerhouses would not have been frightened by these astral beasts. Hence, Xiao Chun somewhat disagreed with the views of the later generations. Everyone believed that the barrier of the sky was to prevent astral beasts. It was just that the peak of the martial epic had passed. To them, astral beasts were horrifying existences that could not be dealt with. Once Xiao Chun descended to the Kunlun realm, there would be a great calamity. He used his own strength to consider the thoughts of the ancient people of the immortal epic. The star beasts that were a headache in the eyes of the warriors might not be a problem in the eyes of the immortal cultivators. The real trouble might come from a more distant starry sky. Retracting his gaze, Xiao Chun shifted his gaze to the vast sea of stars. Being in the starry sky of the universe, all he felt was insignificance. Xiao Chun was slightly troubled. He had heard that the Haotian planet was only 10,000 miles away from the barrier of the sky. Moreover, most of the Sect's bases were at this distance. Even if they couldn't find the Haotian planet after breaking through the barrier of the sky, they would still be able to find the bases of the other sections. That way, they wouldn't be lost in space. However, when he came out, he realized that he was gravely mistaken. As far as the eye could see, all he could see were stars, innumerable and endless. There were all kinds of them, big and small, and it completely exceeded his expectations. There were also other things in the star state, such as the asteroid belts, the river of light, and the black holes. Once trapped in those forbidden areas, one would definitely die. At this moment, he finally understood the importance of a star chart. Without a star chart, it would be impossible to move an inch in the Milky Way. Back then, when Xiao Chun followed the Heavenly Battle Palace's two palace masters, he felt that the journey was very peaceful. Occasionally, he encountered trouble, but he easily dodged it. Now that he was steering the ship through the starry skies, it didn't feel like that at all. Don't worry, there should be a starry sky relay station nearby. Since I didn't reject your decision to enter the starry sky, there must be a way out. Ao Jiao's voice rang out at the right time, which calmed Xiao Chun down. Xiaochen did not dare to act rashly. He only let the Dragon's Gate's warship drift with the chaotic space. He asked, "What is a Starry Heaven relay station? How come I have never heard of it before?" Ao Jiao smiled and said, "With your experience, naturally, you have not heard of this before. Grandmaster-level martial sages and above already possess the basic strength to travel the Starry Heavens alone. The Starry Heavens relay station is a place for these Grandmaster-level martial sages and above to stay. Some were established by independent martial artists, purely for the sake of appreciating the beautiful scenery of the starry sky, or for personal romantic pursuits. The establishment of this kind of starry sky relay station is relatively simple. It only needs the fixing star stone and an array formation that can roughly defend against starry sky meteorites and cosmic storms. There is another type that is more specialized. It is the relay stations established by the large factions. Their relay stations are spread throughout the Kunlun realm's starry heavens, allowing people to travel back and forth between relay stations. These relay stations are very resistant to cosmic storms and the various unknown dangers of the starry heavens. Xiaochen now understood a little. It looked like the world of the starry heavens was much more marvelous than he had imagined. However, how should he find these starry heaven relay stations? Ao Jiao noticed Xiaochen's doubts. She smiled and said, "Without a star chart, you will not be able to find the relay stations. Don't act rashly for now. Just let the Dragon's Gate's warship circle around the barrier of the sky. Sooner or later, you will run into a Starry Heaven relay station. There are many Starry Heaven relay stations established by independent martial artists around the barrier of the sky. There is no need to worry about not being able to find one." Not having a star chart was really problematic. However, since Xiaochen had already made his decision, it was not time to regret it. He perked himself up and asked, "How long do I have to wait?" "Don't worry. It will not take long. Those Starry Heaven relay stations all have fixing star stones. They are fixed in place in the starry heavens. As long as you circle the barrier of the sky, you will run into one sooner or later. Furthermore, it will be very easy to discover them." When Xiaochen saw this, he did not ask any further. Instead, he reflected on his experiences on this trip. Now that Xiaochen had reached his current cultivation realm, he could no longer limit himself to the younger generation. Martial sages were already roughly at the top of the pyramid. The number of older generation experts that Xiaochen would have to face would increase. He had to consider these experts that he could only look up to in the past. In the future, it would be normal for him to run into superior-grade martial sages or even grandmaster-level martial sages. When he ran into such experts, he would have to think carefully about how to deal with them and how to protect himself. He also had to prepare some trump cards that would allow him to escape easily from these experts. After a while, Xiaochen took out the Saber Monarch grass. He planned to use this time to absorb the saber intent contained in it. There was a dangerous place in the Kunlun continent called Heavenly Thunder Peak. During the ancient era, a powerful saber emperor comprehended his Tao here. Eventually, he successfully broke through and became a sovereign saber monarch. After that, he mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind many legends in the Kunlun continent. Some said that he became an illusory martial god. Others said that he died long ago. Aside from the legends, there was a kind of very ordinary grass growing on the heavenly snow peak where that saber emperor comprehended his Tao. However, the instant that saber emperor advanced to sovereign martial emperor, this grass mutated, storing the saber intent that he inadvertently leaked. This grass became very precious. Furthermore, it continued to grow. Every time spring arrived, there would be many martial sages going to fight for the saber monarch grass. Xiaochen placed the saber monarch grass in his palm and circulated his spiritual sense. Then, he closed his eyes and started to absorb the saber intent contained in the grass. Buzz! 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 Buzzing saber intent resounded in Xiaochen's sea of consciousness. Thousands of strands of saber intent scattered everywhere, kicking up huge waves in his sea of consciousness. Every strand of saber intent was surging and terrifying. The waves in his sea of consciousness made Xiaochen tremble for some reason. With some effort, Xiaochen merged the saber intent in the saber monarch grass with the saber intent that he comprehended. The saber intent in the grass was too tyrannical and ferocious. The process was very slow. However, Xiaochen gained a lot. With every strand of saber intent that the saber monarch left behind, Xiaochen could feel his saber intent improving significantly. When all the strands of saber intent were collected, Xiaochen's 80% comprehension had reached peak 90% comprehension. The originally formless saber intent in Xiaochen's sea of consciousness could be vaguely seen. An indistinct small saber floated in the sea of consciousness. This should be the shape of the saber soul. When one saber intent reached 100% comprehension, it would undergo a qualitative change, giving birth to its soul. Swordsmen had a sword soul, and bladesmen had a saber soul. When a cultivator comprehended a soul, when they executed various martial techniques with their weapons, the sharpness of the weapons would be able to pierce one's heart, making them tremble in fear. The saber techniques they executed would be much sharper. However, it was not that simple to condense a soul. Out of 10,000 bladesmen, only one would comprehend saber intent. Of those who comprehended saber intent, only 1 in 10,000 would be able to condense a saber soul. One could easily imagine how difficult it was to comprehend a saber soul. The saber intent in the saber monarch grass in Xiaochen's palm drained, turning into withered grass and disappearing. Xiaochen opened his eyes, and with a thought, his gaze seemed to be able to pierce through the boundless starry heavens. It was incredibly sharp, deterring others from looking directly at him. Xiaochen raised his head and looked around. Then he asked, "Ao Jiao, how long did I take to absorb the saber intent?" Ao Jiao counted on her fingers. Then she said, "About half a month." "Hee, I even missed a starry sky relay station." Xiaochen raised his eyebrows and said, "Let's head back. I don't want to drift anymore. You should remember the route to that starry sky relay station, right?" "Naturally, I'll help you remember it." Turning the bow of the warship around, Xiaochen controlled the 18 sails of the Dragon's Gate's warship to advance at full speed in the direction Ao Jiao pointed out. The 8 jets at the stern of the warship released a scarlet tail of flames. The Dragon's Gate's warship was like a blue dragon soaring through the clouds in the starry heavens, looking very imposing. In less than half a day, a jade-green spot of light appeared in Xiaochen's vision. That was the unique light of the star-fixing stone. It was unique in the boundless universe. Xiaochen's face lit up in joy. He could not help but increase his speed. The talisman scripts on the sails flickered with light as they buzzed. The star-fixing stone was one of the top 100 stones on the Starry Heavens Strange Stone ranking. It did not provide any practical help to cultivators. Its wondrous use lay in the word fix. Any object connected to the star-fixing stone would be firmly fixed in space. No matter how strong the Starry Heavens storm was, it would not be able to blow it away. This was because it was already connected to the structure of that space. The star-fixing stone was the foundation of a Starry Heavens relay station. Without the star-fixing stone, there would be no Starry Heavens relay station. A relay station that always drifted in the starry heavens would not be of any help to cultivators on an adventure. The price of the star-fixing stone was based on its size. A palm-sized star-fixing stone would cost a regular superior-grade Marshall Sage 10 years of savings. The larger the star-fixing stone, the more expensive it would be. That jade-green spot of light slowly closed in on Xiaochen. When it was 5 kilometers away, Xiaochen, who was on the bow, could already see the relay station clearly. Although it was called a relay station, it was actually a mountain peak that had been chopped off and turned upside down. All sorts of buildings had been erected on that flat platform. The jade-green light came from the inverted triangular ground below. The star-fixing stone was probably embedded in the core of this triangle. This Starry Heavens relay station was very small, no more than 1 kilometer in radius. With Xiaochen's cultivation, he could circle it 4 or 5 times in one breath. The buildings on the platform were very simple. Aside from a shop, a few wooden houses, and a courtyard, the other places were all planted with flowers and trees. 2 old men sat at a stone table in the courtyard, drinking tea and playing Go. Not far away, a girl about 7 or 8 years old practiced her saber alone. The entire scene looked very harmonious. Xiao Chen put away the Dragon's Gate's warship. Then he stood on 2 clumps of electric light. In a flash, he arrived at the top of the platform and was blocked by a formless restriction. The 2 old men glanced at Xiao Chen and did not pay him any more attention. However, the girl practicing the sword shouted in a tender voice, "Daddy! Daddy! There is a guest! Business is here!" Chapter 849. Whoosh! A jade pendant flew out from below, passing through the restriction and flying towards Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand and grabbed it. Then he passed through the restriction without any obstruction. When the girl saw the cloaked Xiao Chen, she felt very curious. She stared at Xiao Chen with her large eyes. A lazy voice came from the shop in the courtyard. It said, "Little girl, don't get distracted. Continue practicing the saber." The girl giggled and made a funny face. Clearly, she was not afraid of the person speaking. However, she still obediently continued practicing the saber. The girl did not hold a real saber in her hand. Instead, it was just a saber carved from bamboo. While it looked very proper, it was actually full of openings. When Xiao Chen saw this scene, he smiled faintly. Unexpectedly, he could see such a leisurely scene in the deep starry heavens. It made him feel calm for some reason. Xiao Chen stepped forward and arrived at the shop. There were some old, miscellaneous items on the shelves. Clearly, no one had touched them for a long time. Behind the counter was a middle-aged man with a long beard. There was a startling scar on this man's face and 2 thick eyebrows. One could still vaguely see the sharpness of the past. This person's appearance perfectly described the word ferocious. However, at this moment, he held a small teapot to his lips in his right hand and a book in his left. He looked very refined. In Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness, the vague, wrinkled 90% comprehended saber intent suddenly trembled as though it had seen something very scary. The relay station's owner raised his head and exclaimed softly. Then he smiled and said, "Your presence brings light to my humble dwelling." Unexpectedly, a demonic genius of the younger generation came to this rundown place. "Furthermore, you are a pretty good bladesman." The owner's words did not contain the shock that most people would show when they saw a genius. Instead, it was more of a mocking and joking tone, an indifference that came from being accustomed to the world of mortals. Xiao Chen felt some fear in his heart. This person was not simple. Not only did he have an unfathomable cultivation, but he was also a very strong bladesman. "Senior, do you sell star maps here?" Xiao Chen asked from under his hood. When it came to business, the owner of the relay station put down the ancient book in his hand and forced himself to be spirited. However, there was still a hint of laziness in his voice. "Star Atlas, how big do you want it to be? What level of Star Atlas do you want? Different levels have different prices." Xiao Chen thought for a moment and said, "Just give me the most ordinary one. Then it's a primitive one. 100,000 star coins, no bargaining." The relay station owner tossed over a jade slip. Xiao Chen caught it and sent his spiritual sense into it. Instantly, a vast 3-dimensional map of the starry sky appeared in his mind. On the star map, the major relay stations were marked. Planets with sex stationed on them would also be marked with words. Dangerous places would be marked with color, and there were even simple text descriptions. Unknown forbidden lands were marked with a simple question mark. This star map was much more detailed than the one that Xiao Chen had seen in the past. Soon, Xiao Chen found the location of planet Haotian. Then, he quickly drew a route from here to planet Haotian in his mind. Xiao Chen withdrew his spiritual sense, and he revealed an expression of joy. He happily paid 100,000 astral coins and prepared to leave. However, the relay station owner stopped him and said, "Young man, you still have something that you have not given me." Xiao Chen was stunned for a while. Then, he recalled that the other party had tossed him a jade pendant at the start. After thinking for a while, he did not rush to return it. He said, "I see that Senior's relay station does not seem to be marked on this star map. If Senior takes this jade pendant away, it will not be easy to find this place in the future. However, the relay station owner smiled and said, "This is a small place in the first place. I only do business with some friends. If not for your young age and the fact that you are a bladesman, I would not have let you in." Xiaochen wanted to make friends with this person. He wanted to keep the jade pendant with him, so he thought about how to broach the subject. Xiaochen, most of these Starry Heaven relay stations were once famous people of the Sky Dome realm. They were tired of the fighting and killing of the cultivator world and retired to the Starry Heavens, putting an end to all worldly grudges. Normally, they do not wish to be disturbed by others. Ao Jiao explained softly from the immortal spirit ring. When Xiaochen heard this, he could not help but feel sad. It was rare for him to meet a true bladesman expert. If he missed this opportunity, it would be a pity. This humble one has been rude and disturbed you. Xiaochen was rather straightforward. After he heard Ao Jiao's explanation, he did not say anything more and directly handed over the jade pendant. The relay station owner smiled faintly and received the jade pendant. He said, "You are rather open-minded. I know what you are thinking. If you can drift to this place again in the future, we will be truly fated. At that time, we can have a good chat." Xiaochen performed a cupped fist salute and left this place. As the middle-aged man watched Xiaochen leave, he sighed softly. After not appearing for so many years, the Kunlun realm unexpectedly produced such a young, outstanding talent. The relay station owner shook his head and picked up the teapot with his mouth. Then, he leaned back on the chair and continued reading. With the guidance of the star chart, Xiaochen piloted the Dragon's Gate's warship and flew through the starry heavens. He immediately felt much happier. Half a month later, Xiaochen successfully descended on planet Haotian and arrived at the base of the Haotian sect. When the various elders saw Xiaochen's true body, they all revealed joyful expressions. This was especially so for Shui Lingling. Although she had received Xiaochen's voice projection and knew that he was safe, she only relaxed when she saw him in person. When the various elders left, leaving only Shui Lingling and the first elder, Han Qinghe, Xiaochen spoke of his purpose. "What? You want to return to the Sky Dome realm at this crucial moment? Did I hear wrong?" The usually calm Han Qinghe was extremely shocked when he heard this, somewhat unable to accept it. Shui Lingling also showed a confused expression. She asked, "Junior brother, why?" Now is the start of the age of geniuses. All sorts of ancient wondrous lands will appear one after another. There will be endless fortuitous encounters. No younger generation genius would let go of such an opportunity. Why are you thinking of returning to the Sky Dome realm? Han Qinghe continued, "Furthermore, the spiritual energy of the Sky Dome realm is very thin. With your luck and talent, going there will be a waste of time. If you get left behind by the other geniuses, it will be very difficult to catch up." Xiaochen had already made up his mind long ago. He said calmly, "I know what you are talking about. However, my cultivation technique has reached a critical juncture. There are things in the Sky Dome realm that I have yet to resolve. If I cannot resolve this knot in my heart, it will be hard for me to undergo a heart tribulation. Furthermore, I really want to go and meet some of my old friends in the Sky Dome realm. I have to return on this trip. Otherwise, the regrets in my heart will remain forever." The first elder, Han Qinghe, and the first senior sister, Shui Lingling, tried to dissuade him. However, Xiaochen had already made up his mind and did not budge. Han Qinghe shook his head helplessly and said, "Never mind. Since you are so determined, it is not good for me to say anything more. However, everything has to be done according to the rules. If you want to use the Haotian sect's transportation formation, you have to go to another realm. The inner sect elders can use it for free once every 10 years. The first elder and the vice sect master can use it at will. Given your qualifications, you will not be able to enjoy this. Xiaochen, you can understand this, right?" Xiaochen nodded to indicate that he understood. Traveling between realms required a significant number of astral cores. Furthermore, they were all superior-grade astral cores. Naturally, the sect's resources could not be wasted. 2 trips back and forth will cost a total of 5 million astral coins. This is the best discount we can give you, Han Qing has said sullenly. One trip would require at least 50 superior-grade astral cores. Elder Han was already giving Xiaochen a lot of face by only offering this condition. Shui Lingling still wanted to salvage the situation. She said, "Junior brother, after you go back, I believe that you will not be able to return within a year. 1 year is sufficient for many things to change." Xiaochen performed a cupped fist salute and said, "Many thanks to First Elder and Senior Sister for asking me to stay. However, my situation is rather special. I cannot resolve this knot in my heart or clear my heart tribulation. To me, this is just a form of cultivation. It does not matter where I am." What a great knot in your heart and clear your heart tribulation. This time I'll send you off. Suddenly, a carefree voice rang out in the air. When Elder Han and Shui Lingling heard this, their expressions changed. The sect master actually arrived. Space rippled like water, and a crack appeared. Then, the Haotian Emperor's figure slowly walked out. He released his Emperor's might and withdrew it immediately, not putting any pressure on the group. The Haotian Emperor smiled gently and landed on the ground. Then, he said warmly, "Xinghe, Lingling, you really don't have to worry about Xiaochen. He will have his own fortuitous encounters when he returns." The Haotian Emperor shifted his gaze and stared at Xiaochen. In that instant, it felt like the other party could see through every inch of Xiaochen's body, including his internal organs and every inch of his flesh. "Although I'm not sure what cultivation technique you are cultivating, the bottleneck of this cultivation technique should have been troubling you for a long time, right?" Before Xiaochen came to the Kunlun realm, the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation had already reached the 6th layer. Now that more than 2 years had passed, he was still stuck at the 6th layer. This had long since affected his cultivation speed. The Haotian Emperor's eyes were as sharp as torches, he could tell with one glance. Xiaochen answered honestly. There was no need for him to hide much from the Haotian Emperor. "Yes, it has been more than 2 years. This bottleneck requires me to undergo 2 tribulations, the external lightning tribulation and the internal heart tribulation. Honestly speaking, I am not confident of clearing them." Han Qinghe and Shui Lingling exchanged glances, feeling confused. They had heard of lightning tribulations before. Greater Heavenly Emperor Wu had to undergo 9 layers of lightning tribulations before he could become a sovereign martial emperor. There were also some cultivation techniques that surpassed heaven ranked that required one to face lightning tribulations at the end. However, they had never heard of a heart tribulation. What cultivation technique did Xiaochen cultivate? Could it be even more horrifying than those cultivation techniques that surpassed heaven ranked? Suddenly, the Haotian Emperor asked, "Xiaochen, when did someone plant a strand of heavenly fate in your body? Your journey back must have been very difficult, right?" Xiaochen organized his thoughts and explained what happened. "The people of the Heaven and Earth sect? I'll help you erase the strand of heavenly fate first. Then, I'll settle the score with that group of old fellows. They know that you are from my Haotian sect, yet they still dared to make a move on you." A murderous intent flashed in the eyes of the Haotian Emperor. Boundless clouds churned endlessly in the depths of his eyes. Rings of light flickered within them, materializing the might of the Haotian Emperor. The Haotian Emperor stretched out his hand, wanting to erase the strand of heavenly fate in Xiaochen's body. Xiaochen quickly waved his hand and said, "Sect Master, those 3 people do not know my identity. I do not intend to erase the strand of heavenly fate." Chapter 850. The moment the Haotian Emperor heard this, he understood Xiaochen's meaning. He smiled and said, "It looks like you want to do it yourself. Very well, in that case, I will not make the decision on my own. I still have to discuss this with the Sky Dome Realm's Haotian sect. I will come and look for you 3 days from now. You should use these few days to make your preparations." Words cannot express my gratitude for this great favor. Xiaochen performed a cupped fist salute. With the Haotian Emperor making a move, Xiaochen would be able to save a lot of resources. However, all this was just an empty promise. It was more of an indication of the Haotian Emperor's attitude. While the others were still hesitating, the Haotian emperor did not hesitate to step forward to support Xiao Chen. He was betting on Xiao Chen's future, betting that Xiao Chen would be able to bring back the glory of the Qing emperor. He was betting that his judgment was right. He had already made all the necessary preparations. Actually, Xiao Chen did not have much to do. After learning that Yu Chenxi and Gong Yangyu had been sent to the Heavenly Battle Palace to cultivate as true inheritors, Xiao Chen sought them out and informed them of his purpose. This was within their expectations. The two had not dared to imagine that Xiao Chen would go to the Sky Dome realm at such a crucial time. Right now, the two of them were in the Heavenly Battle Palace. Their cultivations had advanced by leaps and bounds, already reaching half-sage. Furthermore, they had heard that the Haotian emperor would forcefully break open the barrier of the savage battlefield half a month from now, giving everyone a chance to seek fortuitous encounters and see if they could find an opportunity to advance to martial sage. There were endless fortuitous encounters and endless fortuitous encounters. If they were lucky enough, they would have a chance to rise again on this stage. If the two returned to the Sky Dome realm at this moment, they would definitely not agree. When the two learned that Xiao Chen had made up his mind, they each left a message and some resources for him to bring to their clans. 3 days later, the Haotian emperor arrived as promised, appearing before Xiao Chen. The Haotian emperor closed his eyes, trying hard to sense something. Streams of mental energy pierced through the void, shooting toward an unknown place. Moments later, the Haotian great emperor opened his eyes. In the void, he saw figures formed by light and shadows. Each of them looked like a deity, and they seemed to be able to destroy the earth with just a lift of their hands. Zhang Xian pointed forward, and the flashing figure in front of him came to a halt. It was a handsome man who wore a jade robe made of gold and had a purple fork on his head. Judging from his appearance, he looked very much like the Taoist priest of the immortal court that Xiao Chen had met in his previous life. Found it, let's go. A smile appeared on the Haotian emperor's face. With a wave of his hand, the handsome man dissipated into light, and a golden gate appeared behind him. Dense talisman scripts were carved on the gate, and a purple talisman was stuck between the cracks of the gate. The Haotian emperor shouted and punched. The talisman shattered, and the gate opened. The Haotian emperor extended his hand and led Xiao Chen in. A dark passage of time appeared, and the two moved at the speed of light. That person earlier was the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. During the Immortal Epic, the Sky Dome realm was his residence. He was also the strongest Immortal Lord of the 3,000 Immortal Lords. As the Haotian emperor flew forward, he spoke softly. This startled Xiao Chen. Clearly, he had not expected the Haotian emperor to tell him such a secret. The 3,000 great realms were actually the residences of the 3,000 immortal lords during the Immortal Epic. The Haotian emperor smiled faintly and said, "There is no need to make a fuss over nothing. The immortal lords were already the peak experts of the Immortal Epic. The only ones stronger than the immortal lords were the immortal emperors. As for the residents turning into a great 1,000 realms, there is nothing strange about that. When one reaches Emperor Wu's level and comprehends heavenly laws, one can create a small world of one's own with some effort. There is no other meaning in telling you all this. Sooner or later, you will advance to Emperor Wu. Then, you will be able to personally tear open the gates of the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's residence." As they spoke, Xiao Chen felt a familiar aura. It seemed like he was about to reach the Sky Dome realm. Boom! A spatial tear opened, and the scene before Xiao Chen changed. He arrived at the summit of the Great Ji Nation's Haotian sect in the Sky Dome realm. Inside the spatial tear, the Haotian emperor waved his hand and smiled. Due to some agreements, Emperor Wu cannot appear in the Sky Dome realm. I will not be going out. When we meet again, let me see a reborn you. The spatial tear closed, and the space-time tunnel opened by the Haotian emperor closed completely. Xiao Chen looked around. When he felt the spiritual energy in the air, he felt extremely uncomfortable. He smiled bitterly and said, "The difference is really obvious. Cultivating in the Sky Dome realm is probably not even half as good as cultivating in the Kunlun realm. Be it quality or quantity, the difference is too great." Whoosh! A figure flew over from below. Xiao Chen scanned with his spiritual sense and clearly saw the appearance of this person. This person was the supreme elder of the Sky Dome Realm's Haotian sect, Senior Feng. This was also the Senior Feng who had sent Xiao Chen and Yu Chenxi to the Kunlun realm. He could be considered an old acquaintance of Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen did not dare to put on any airs before this person. Electric light flashed under his feet, and he rushed over to welcome him. "It's you. Why are you back?" When Senior Feng saw Xiao Chen, his eyes were filled with shock. He had only heard that the Kunlun realm's main sect had an honored guest. Furthermore, the Haotian emperor had personally sent him over. Unexpectedly, the one who came was Xiao Chen. Furthermore, after not seeing Xiao Chen for 2 years, Xiao Chen had actually advanced to martial sage. Xiao Chen's cultivation was so deep that even Senior Feng could not see through it. Xiao Chen performed a cupped fist salute and said, "Greetings, Senior Feng." Senior Feng smiled bitterly and said, "How could I dare to address myself as senior? Just address me as Senior Feng. Come, follow me to a room first." Xiao Chen looked around and thought of something. Feeling it was strange, he asked, "What's wrong? The Haotian sect's sect master is not around. Why did Senior Feng come over?" Senior Feng was a supreme elder. In terms of seniority, his position was even higher than the sect masters. Since Senior Feng had appeared, it was strange that the sect master had not. Senior Feng smiled and said, "Little brother Xiao Chen, you came at a good time. The frost flood dragon guarding the heaven and earth tomb in Desolate City is undergoing its tribulation again. Rumor has it that this time, the frost flood dragon will either fail and die or advance further, turning into a dragon and leaving this world. Either way, it will not be able to continue guarding the heaven and earth tomb." Xiao Chen felt excited. He had been to Desolate City's hidden dragon lake once before. That was where he learned of Chu Chaoyun's true identity. Back then, the frost flood dragon had sent Xiao Chen flying with one claw strike. However, in reality, it had helped Xiao Chen deal with several bruises and hidden injuries that he had not noticed. At that time, Xiao Chen had won 100 matches in a row in the wrestling ring. While it looked impressive, in reality, there were some hidden injuries in his body. If they were not dealt with in time, they might turn into hidden injuries. The frost flood dragon had done Xiao Chen a favor. However, Xiao Chen did not know why it had helped him back then. When Senior Feng saw that Xiao Chen seemed to be very interested, he smiled and said, "Let's go to the hall first. I will tell you in detail." In the main hall of the Haotian sect's branch, Xiao Chen and Senior Feng sat side by side. The female disciple who came to serve tea looked at Xiao Chen suspiciously. The female disciple felt very curious. Where did this major character come from? Why is he sitting side by side with the Supreme Elder? Based on Senior Feng's expression, he did not treat Xiao Chen as a junior. Senior Feng's position was even higher than the sect masters. Normally, only the sect master could sit beside Senior Feng. The female disciple sized up Xiao Chen, finding him somewhat familiar. However, she did not know where she had seen him before. When Xiao Chen and Senior Feng picked up their teacups, she had no choice but to leave. When the female disciple walked out of the hall, she thought of something and took out a register. The words "True Dragon Ranking" were written on it. When she flipped to the first page, the person in the illustration entered her eyes. When the female disciple thought back to that person's appearance, her heart could not help but pound heavily. Unexpectedly, the white-robed bladesman Xiao Chen had returned. Furthermore, he was sitting side by side with the Supreme Elder. If this news spread, who knew what kind of commotion it would cause? The clan heads and sect masters of the 8 noble clans and 10 great sects all rushed over? Xiao Chen asked calmly after he heard Senior Feng's introduction. He put down the teacup in his hand and asked calmly. Senior Feng nodded slightly and replied, "Almost all of them." Most of the martial sages of the entire Sky Dome realm rushed over. It is hard to say what is hidden in the grave of the first-generation Tianwu Emperor. The first-generation Tianwu Emperor was a sovereign martial emperor 10,000 years earlier than the Qing Emperor. There were countless legends about him in the Sky Dome realm. On the other hand, Xiao Chen rarely heard anyone mention him in the Kunlun realm. Such a person, who even possessed a strong heavenly flame, did not leave any records of his deeds in the Kunlun realm. This was extremely strange. Could it be that this first-generation Tianwu emperor was like the people who left their vague marks at the top of the Sage Mark Monument, mysteriously leaving this world and not truly dying? Putting aside these guesses for now, the first-generation Tianwu emperor was definitely an extremely strong person. Since his grave had been passed down, it would be hard to avoid people coveting it. Xiao Chun compared his strength to Senior Feng's. Senior Feng was a superior-grade martial sage, but he did not give Xiao Chun any pressure at all. Compared to the 3 superior-grade martial sages of the Heaven and Earth sect, Xiao Chun could not be mentioned in the same breath. There was a huge difference in accumulations between advancing to martial sage in the Sky Dome realm and the Kunlun realm. Xiao Chun finally understood it now. No wonder some of the martial sages of the Sky Dome realm were unwilling to go to the Kunlun realm, even though they had accumulated sufficient resources. If they went to the Kunlun realm with their strength, they would not even be qualified to be bystanders. They might as well stay in the lower realm and live a peaceful life. Xiao Chun thought for a while and thought of another question. He asked, "What's going on with that frost flood dragon?" Based on Senior Feng's tone, it seems like this is not its first time undergoing a tribulation. Senior Feng nodded and said, "It has undergone a tribulation several times already, probably once every 1 or 2,000 years. This flood dragon did not choose to take human form, choosing another path of cultivation for spirit beasts. Its life force is extremely strong. Although it did not advance to martial emperor, a regular emperor would not be able to do anything to it. This time, it has already reached its peak. If it succeeds in its tribulation, it will turn from a flood dragon to a dragon, becoming an ice true dragon. At that time, due to the agreement between the Kunlun realm and the demonic world, it will not be able to stay. However, it is more likely that it will fail its tribulation and die. It has already lived for too long, and its luck is nearly exhausted. All the martial sages are waiting for it to die so that they can make a move on its heavenly emperor's grave." Xiao Chun knew that there was no Emperor Wu in the Sky Dome realm. However, for some reason, this was the second time he heard about this agreement. What exactly is this agreement? Can Senior Feng tell me? Xiao Chun asked out of curiosity. Senior Feng took a sip of tea and said, "It is not a secret. There is no harm in telling you. After the destruction of the Tianwu dynasty, the Bushin Palace and the demonic world came to an agreement to work together to suppress the development of this realm. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.